Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Shinigami Thousand-Year Blood War. Chapter 81. About 300 years ago. At that time, Zael Aporo was still an alchemist, and his big brother Urfert was a general. Because Zael Aporo was obsessed with human body research, Ilfert, the big brother, took advantage of his general authority to bring the defeated to Zael Aporo for human body research. However, no matter how hidden things are, there will always be a day when they will be exposed. After all, Zael Aporo's research on the human body is still known to the world, which also attracted the very powerful knights of the church at that time. After a crusade, both brothers were killed, sentenced to capital punishment. After being killed, the souls of the brothers were not inducted into the Soul Society but transformed into hollow. But compared to the void transformed by big brother Ilfet, the void transformed by Zael Aporo is more powerful, and even swallowed his big brother, that is, Ilfet, into his body without consciousness. This incident has always deeply regretted Zael Aporo, especially after his power has become stronger and stronger. There has always been a plan to resurrect him. But this matter has always been hidden in his mind, and he has never told anyone. Lin Sheng know. How did Master Lin Sheng know? Facing Zael Aporo's question, Lin Sheng remained silent. Some things can be said at the end, but it is not good to talk too much. In the end, Zael Aporo left with doubts. He didn't understand the matter of Urfert, let alone the specimens. Although he didn't understand, it made him feel a little bit about Lin Sheng. True awe. Just let him go like this. Ulquiorra asked Lin Sheng, watching Zael Aporo's retreating figure. Even if we get rid of him, Aizen will still infiltrate us in other ways. Let's keep it, at least it can confuse part of Aizen's sight. Lin Sheng said in a deep voice. Whether Zael Aporo will be made into a specimen in the future depends entirely on his own choice. After solving the Zael Aporo matter, Ulquiorra left the laboratory. With Ulquiorra's departure, 5 figures walked in at the door of the laboratory, namely Nelly Lu, Hurley Bell and Sun Sun. Things are going well. Hurley Bell's cold voice sounded. I don't know if she is asking about Zael Aporo or Arrancar. Well, it's the information that Zael Aporo leaked to Aizen, but I don't think he really believes in Aizen. Lin Sheng explained simply. Is Zael Aporo this kind of person? I saw that his face seemed very serious when he just left. Nailu said a little strangely. Maybe it's the reason why I gave him those advices at the end. Lin Sheng said without thinking. After all, it will be difficult to appease the secrets hidden deep in the heart if others tell them straight away. Okay, let's leave Zael Aporo alone, and I will Arrancarize for you first. Which one of you will come first? Lin Sheng asked with a smile. Nailu, you come first. Hurley Bell said softly to Nailu. But Sister Hurley Bell, Nailu said hesitantly, but was interrupted by Hurley Bell. Nailu, didn't you want to become a human for a long time? We can do it after you. Seeing their humility, Lin Sheng couldn't help but said, this is actually very fast, you don't have to be so polite. Then thank you Sister Hurley Bell. Nailu said with a sweet smile. Come on, Nailu. Hurley Bell did not forget to cheer Nailu. Nailu nodded, but she still seemed a little nervous. Don't be so nervous, before you, Xiaowu's Arrancar transformation was very smooth. Lin Sheng smiled and comforted. Then let's start. Nailu closed her big golden green eyes, and said nervously and expectantly. Seeing Nailu's appearance as a little woman, Lin Sheng smiled without saying anything, and directly activated the Hogyoku in his hand, and suddenly a very brilliant light shone on Nailu's body. Under the power of Hogyoku, the outline of Nailu's body is changing. The lower body of her original antelope gradually turned into 2 long legs. After that, the mask on her face also began to break, forming a 2-horned skull-shaped decoration on her head. Not long after, as the brilliance gradually dissipated, a peerless beauty with long hair up to her waist appeared in front of Lin Sheng and the others, and made them look amazing. After Arrancar, Nailu is about 1.7 meters tall, a little shorter than before, but her body proportion is absolutely good. There is nothing to say, with attractive long legs, plump breasts, pure face, and a cute voice, is definitely the most ideal dream goddess. The only regret for Lin Sheng is that during the process of Arrancarization, the blue coat on Nailu's body seemed to have also changed, becoming a chest wrap and short skirt worn on Nailu's body at this time. However, this kind of looming cover made Nilu's figure even more attractive. Great, I finally became like you, Longlong. Nilu said happily. Yeah, Lin Sheng, who was admiring the beautiful scenery, responded to Kaido. Love Nilu, control your strength. Lin Sheng said with some pain and joy. Seemingly realizing that her strength was indeed a bit strong, Nilu also let go of Lin Sheng apologetically. But letting go doesn't mean leaving. Nilu put her face close to his earlobe and said softly, "Thank you, Longlong." Then she kissed Lin Sheng's face lightly before leaving completely. Touching the place where Nilu kissed just now, Lin Sheng was a little stunned. Is this considered to be a forced kiss? No, this is not allowed, we can't take this loss, and we will have to repay it 10 times in the future, and repay it 100 times. With the success of Nilu's Arankar, the voices of Yingying and Yanyan kept ringing, and it seemed that everyone was very happy for her. After handing Nilu a white robe and urging her to put it on, Lin Sheng turned to Hurley Bell and said, "Hurley Bell, it's your turn." Yeah, Hurley Bell responded, and then took 2 steps forward. Sister Hurley Bell, you have to work hard. Nilu waved from the side. Lord Hurley Bell. Mira Rhodes and Apache showed worried expressions. You two guys, don't be so pessimistic. Didn't everyone else succeed before? We have to trust Mrs. Hurley Bell and Mrs. Lin Sheng. Sun Sun said from the side. But before Mira Rhodes and Apache adjusted their emotions, Sun Sun added, if you have this time, why not think about what kind of ugly monsters you will become later? Oh Sun Sun. Apache suddenly became irritable. Just when Mira Rhodes was about to join in, Sun Sun motioned them to silence instead, and pointed in the direction of Lin Sheng and Hurley Bell. Mira Rhodes and Apache immediately suppressed the curses they were about to utter, and looked at Sun Sun with resentment on their faces. It's about to start, Hurley Bell. Lin Sheng lifted Hogyoku up and said solemnly. Hurley Bell's face froze. Compared with Nilu's nervousness, she was very brave in this respect. Hogyoku, which was suspended in midair autonomously, flickered non-stop under the urging of Lin Sheng, and finally shone a blue-black light towards Hurley Bell. After being irradiated by this ray of light, the white armor on Hurley Bell's body began to fade, revealing her brown skin, and the mask on her face was adjusted intentionally by Lin Sheng to only cover the neck. Compared with the mask covering half of the face in the original book, the Urankarization led by Lin Sheng made Hurley Bell's mask a lot smaller, not only completely exposing the face but also forming a beautiful mask decoration on the neck. With the completion of Urankarization, Hogyoku's light gradually faded, and a beautiful woman with a superb figure appeared in place. Looking at the naked Gao Leng Yuji in front of him, Lin Sheng was a little lost. Nothing else, it's too big. What are you looking at? Hurry up and give me the clothes. Hurley Bell's cold voice sounded, and even his green eyes seemed to sparkle with ice crystals. Ah, I'm sorry, I was thinking about something just now. Lin Sheng said with a hint of apology, and casually threw a piece of clothing in the past. Sister Hurley Bell, you are so beautiful. Nilu ran over and said happily, but her hand pinched Lin Sheng's waist. This pinch made Lin's face turn blue. Sure enough, a jealous woman is super scary, even the gentle Nilu can't escape this law. After that, Lin Sheng carried out Urankarization for Sun Sun, Apache, and Mira Rhodes respectively. The first is the White Snake Exosunsun, followed by Urankar is a traditional oriental beauty, not only has a dark green shawl and long hair, but also a pair of beautiful big eyes under the eyebrows and bangs, and finally there are 3 stars under the right eye. The round tear mole looks like a delicate young lady. The elk behind Apache Urankar has short black hair and a rhinoceros horn-shaped mask on his forehead. His facial features are quite attractive, but his personality is delicate and unyielding. He is a pungent young lady. Finally, there is the yellow golden lion Zumila Rhodes. Urankar has long curly hair and black skin. She has a taller figure, but her breasts are more than a little bit fuller than the first 2. She is a mature woman with big waves. Since the completion of Urankar, they have chatted with Nilu and Hurley Bell Yingyingyanyan who completed Urankar before, but they didn't talk about the issue of strength. What is your big? She is beautiful, and I have a good figure. Words. Finding that they seemed to be chatting endlessly for a while, Lin Sheng walked out of the laboratory in boredom, and even carried out Urankarization for Peishui and Dong Chaka. As for the appearance of the 2 of them, it is worth mentioning. So far, their group has finally realized the Urankarization of all members, which has also greatly increased everyone's strength. Even Lin Sheng himself used the power of Hogyoku during this time to perform secondary compression on the Reiatsu in his body. His compression process is also very simple, that is, he keeps making a virtual Urankar, and every time he converts a virtual Urankar, the spiritual particles in his body will be condensed once. But even this constant condensing and compression made his realm reach the peak level of Jillian again. Let me specifically explain here that Lin Sheng's Urankarization is different from Ulquiorra and even Stark, because his Urankarization degree has been extremely high from the beginning, and he belongs to a complete Urankarization existence. That is to say, in the case of No Return Blade, there is no mask on his face, and there will be more or less part of the mask left in other ghosts. The complete Urankarization coupled with a larger spirit particle than other false promotions, gave Lin Sheng the ability to fight across levels. But cross-level combat has a limit after all. According to Lin Sheng's own estimation, his current strength should be similar to that of a Juchaz peak-level Urankar. That's why, just Zael Aporo, who is the weakest in Vasto Lord, has the meaning of belittling Lin Sheng after Urankar, because their strength reversed at that moment. Just as Lin Sheng was thinking about his own strength, Nailu, Hurley Bell and others also came out of the laboratory. Lord Nailu, Pei Shui and Dong Chaka cried and ran over. After Urankar, they are a fat man and a thin man respectively. Leaving aside their strengths, let's just say that this image is matched with their funny personalities, and they are absolutely perfect two living treasures. Is it Pei Shui and Dong Chaka? You have also completed Urankar. It's great. Nailu said happily for them, clapping her little hands. Seeing the noisy scene of Nailu and the others, Hurley Bell walked over with a serious face. She grabbed Lin Sheng and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Since we have all achieved Urankarization, then do we no longer need to be attached to Aizen?" Hurley Bell didn't have a good impression of Aizen after learning about the whole story of Loic, but due to the plan among her companions, she never had an attack. Cooperating with Aizen is beneficial to us at present. After all, to some extent we can use the power of Aizen to integrate the current Hueco Mundo. Lin Sheng explained. For some reason, I always feel that when Aizen looks at us, there is always a kind of indifference in his eyes, as if he will abandon us at any time. Hurley Bell said with a woman's intuition. This made Lin Sheng even show a surprised expression. After all, compared to the desperate trust in Aizen in the original book, the current Hurley Bell is much more vigilant. Your feeling is not wrong, Aizen is that kind of person. Lin Sheng said calmly. Then you still work with people like Aizen. It was Hurley Bell's turn to be surprised this time. She just thought that Lin Sheng was paralyzed by Aizen's appearance, but she didn't expect him to know who Aizen is. The cooperation with Aizen is part of my plan. In the near future, I will take back Hueco Mundo, and that moment will not be long. Lin Sheng said confidently to Hurley Bell. Looking at Lin Sheng's resolute face, Hurley Bell's frown seemed to relax a bit, and he said softly, "Okay, then I will listen to you." "You too, when will it be?" Ulquiorra on the side said quite dissatisfied. Since they came out, Lin Sheng and Hurley Bell have been chatting with each other in front of him, and this wave of dog food made him a little inexplicable. "Are you all finished?" At this moment, a lazy voice came. It was Stark and Lilynette who had returned. "Well, thanks also for driving away Baragan." Lin Sheng responded with a smile. "TCH, that old man gave up after finding out that we were not easy to deal with. If Stark didn't want to make a move, I would definitely teach that guy a lesson." Lilynette said exaggeratedly, shaking her fists. Those who didn't know thought she had something how awesome. "Forget it, Lilynette, it's exhausting to fight," Stark said, holding his forehead. "Stark, this is a difficult opportunity for everyone to see my strength, and you messed it up just like that." Lilynette was still talking to herself, as if she was going to teach Stark a lesson. But then it was repaired by Stark first, but Lilynette refused to admit defeat, and the two immediately had a quarrel. Seeing the funny Lilynette, everyone laughed involuntarily. Just when everyone was laughing and laughing, three figures in white Houri stepped here. They were the three of Aizen who had returned from the soul burial trial. Looking around at the Urankarized people, Aizen asked calmly, "Is there anything funny?" "It turns out that Master Aizen is back." Lin Sheng said in feigned surprise, as if he had just discovered Aizen and others. It seems that Jun Lin has done a lot of amazing things during my absence. Aizen said indifferently. It sounded like he was praising Lin Sheng, but judging by his tone, he seemed to be expressing his dissatisfaction. I'm really sorry, I only fully mastered this method of Arankar after Master Aizen left, because I don't know when you will come back, so I made an Arankarization for them on my own. You won't blame me for this, right? Lin Sheng pretended to be terrified and explained. Aizen took a deep look at him first, and then said, after all, I left so suddenly, there is nothing wrong with Mr. Lin's actions. Thank you for your understanding, Lin Sheng said, pretending to be released. But before he finished speaking, Aizen's palm suddenly and slowly patted on his shoulder, and a huge pressure-like Mount Tai enveloped Lin Sheng. 91 of Bakudo, the ice rope of the spiritual prison. Accompanied by Aizen's chanting, chains that were as transparent as ice crystals wrapped around Lin Sheng's body, and tightened in an instant, locking his body and sealing his Reiatsu. This is. Lin Sheng looked at the chains with an embarrassed expression. No matter how he tried to break free, he couldn't break free. After noticing Lin Sheng's strange behavior, Stark, Ulquiorra, Hurley Bell, and Neliel took immediate action and rushed towards Aizen. But an extremely terrifying Reiatsu is released infinitely around Aizen, and at the same time, ripples spread out from here, instantly changing the whole world several colors. This powerful force actually triggered the change of the dimension. The sudden burst of power not only shocked Stark and others, but even Ichimaru Jin and Tusen Kanami who came with Aizen were extremely surprised. It seemed that even they didn't know that Aizen's power had reached this level. Facing such a terrifying Reiatsu, although Stark and others were forced to stop at the first moment, they still intentionally approached Aizen after reacting. Don't come here. Just when the battle here was about to start, Lin Sheng suddenly shouted. This made Stark, Hurley Bell, Nailu, Ulquiorra and others stop again, looking at him with puzzled faces. But Lin Sheng didn't explain to them, instead he asked Aizen with embarrassment, Master Aizen, what do you mean? At this time, Aizen has a feeling of calm. He doesn't seem to care about the deterrence of Stark and others, and he doesn't care whether the battle actually happened. Looking at Stark and the others who had stopped, and then at Lin Sheng who was pale, Aizen said slowly, I hope Lin Sheng can report this to me in advance. Hearing this, Lin Sheng nodded solemnly, as if he had compromised in this respect. And Aizen, looking at Lin Sheng in this state, seemed to feel that the beating was almost over, so he withdrew the arm that was pressing on his shoulder. The ice crystal chains on his body gradually dissipated, and the pressure like Mount Tai disappeared, and Lin Sheng felt his Reiatsu came back again. I'm going to canonize a new Espada in the throne hall next, I hope I won't have to wait too long. Aizen said, turning his back to them, and then walked towards the throne hall with Ichimaru Jin and others. Long. Nailu immediately ran over to support Lin Sheng and said worriedly. Stark, Ulquiorra, Hurley Bell and others also walked over, all with worried expressions. I'm fine, Lin Sheng said as he stood up straight, feeling the power filling his body again. At this moment, he realized that he might have jumped too much before, which attracted Aizen's beating. After all, what he did was extremely challenging to any ruler. After all, in the face of truly powerful forces, any plan is useless. Lin Sheng clenched his fist unwillingly, he needed the strength to compete with Aizen. Then should we just escape from here? Stark said hesitantly, rubbing his head. It's impossible for all of them to escape, and with Aizen's character, even if we escape, he will not let us go. Hurley Bell analyzed rationally, after all, they are not the only ones here. Hurley Bell is right, what we need to do now is to endure. We need to keep a low profile as much as possible before gaining the power to fight against it. Lin Sheng concluded. Everyone expressed their understanding one after another, and it seemed that no one was shaken by that scene just now. After all, for them, losing their lives is not terrible, what is terrible is losing their faith and companions. Silver, just say what you have to say. Aizen said to Ichimaru Jin who seemed to have something to say along the way. You saw it. Actually, I just want to ask, why didn't you just kill Lin Sheng? Ichimaru Jin pretended to be surprised at first, and then asked with a smile. Such an interesting guy, wouldn't it be a lot less fun to just kill him like this? Aizen said with the corners of his mouth slightly upturned. Oh, then you are not afraid that one day that Lin Sheng's power will become stronger? I'm afraid it will cause a rebellion at that time. Ichimaru Jin asked again, and also pointed out what is very likely to happen. As long as I am always stronger than him, he will never betray. Aizen said with great confidence. Then you are not afraid in case. Ichimaru Jin's smiling eyes seemed to be higher. Silver, no matter how powerful an ant is, it can't move the sky. Aizen said flatly. I see. Ichimaru Jin smiled at Kaido. The throne hall consists of a throne, 2 vice seats and an espada seat. There are 13 seats in total, representing the 13 most respected people in the Zai Palace and even in the entire Hueco Mundo. At this moment, a large number of Arankar above the Jillian level gathered on this hall, and they were all summoned by the king's order of Aizen. Amber, why don't you sit on the 6th espada? Do you think you are too weak? Ha ha ha. In the crowd, a grim-faced Arankar taunted the former 6th espada Amber. It's a pity that Amber's face only became more silent, and he didn't pay attention to his meaning, because he knew that once he spoke, it would cause more trouble. Since he was defeated by Lin Sheng and lost an arm, he has since lost his position in Zai Palace. Later, although the missing arm was restored because of the second Arankar, the Zai Palace today is not the same as before. Just like the Arankar who taunted him just now is an Ijuka's level Arankar, but he is only a Jillian level Arankar, a whole level behind in strength, and fighting back is just asking for humiliation. Similar to Amber's situation, there are also the original 3rd Espada Dorudoni, the original 5th Espada Taruti, and the original 7th Espada Gangtenbane. These original espadas may be the most embarrassing on the scene. After all, they are now selecting new espadas, and the first batch of espadas will be eliminated, but they have to come because this is Aizen's order. Suddenly, there was a commotion among the crowd, and before Arankar behind could understand the situation, he was pushed out of the way. You actually pushed my lord. Jillian Arankar yelled angrily. His words caused a chain reaction among the other Arankars, who started to curse angrily. After all, most Zooks are not so easy to get along with. But an astonishing Reiatsu erupted from the gate, passing them by in an instant, making the Arankar, who was speaking inappropriately, seem to be stuck in the throat by a fishbone, and stopped talking halfway. With this Reiatsu, a figure in a white robe and a long perforated camouflage mask enters. Who are you? Why do you hide your head and show your tail? An Arankar wearing a bullhead mask asked sharply. His name was Ludben. Don't you even recognize me? The man in white made a creepy voice. His voice was a bit like a machine-synthesized voice, and it always sounded a sense of uneasiness. Are you Euronilo? Gangtenbane and other original Espada asked in surprise when they heard this voice. Euronilo, the original 4th Espada, Jillian-level Arankar, has never appeared in the Void Knight Palace since being transformed into Aizen Arankar. It turns out that you guys are still alive. The man in white, that is, Euronilo, took off his mask, revealing a glass jar that looked like an upside-down test tube. This cylinder is filled with a red unknown liquid, and there are 2 small Arankars with only heads floating in the liquid. How did you become like this? The original 5th Espada Taruti said with some horror. To be honest, Aronilo looks a little scary now, and his Reiatsu seems a little unusual. I just evolved again, but you, even if you become a real Arankar, your strength is nothing more than that. Aronilo's gloomy Kaido did not forget to poke their sore spots. You guy, the original 3rd Espada Dorudoni seemed to be angry, but seemed to think of the Reiatsu just now, and suppressed the anger again. In fact, after Aizen Arankar, Aronilo gained the ability of Kanshu. This is a powerful ability that can swallow the dead and take its ability and Reiatsu as its own. Aronilo used this ability to devour a large amount of void, not only promoted from Jillian to Ijuka's level Arankar, but also gained many special abilities. It's just that only he and Aizen know about this matter, so Gangtenbane and others will be surprised by his changes. After some conversation, Aronilo seemed to have lost interest in these original companions, and walked to the 4th Espada's throne on his own, and then sat down without hesitation. This move by Euronilo caused other Arankars to have strange emotions, especially those Arankars who felt that they were strong, and they were a little ready to move. After all, this is a good opportunity to dominate Hueco Mundo. In the end, the desire for power and self-inflated mentality still prevailed, and several powerful Ijukas-level Arrancars immediately occupied the throne of the remaining Espadas, and 2 Arrancars even had a dispute over who should be the first. At this moment, a vast Reiatsu came from outside the throne room, making the noisy scene quiet. Whose Reiatsu is this? It's so powerful. Aronilo, who was sitting in the 4th position, said in surprise. And the other Arrancars who were vying for the throne of Espada were also extremely embarrassed at the moment. This Reiatsu was far above them, like a powerful existence from another dimension. A tremor from the depths of their soul told them that it belonged to the higher Vasto Lord class Manos Grande. Soon, several powerful Ijukas-level Arrancars rushed in, and after a passage was dispersed, a burly old man slowly appeared on the stage. The appearance of this old man made many Arrancars who had been arrogant and domineering suddenly become humbled, and they didn't even dare to look at the old man directly. Because the person who came was the former king of Hueco Mundo, Baragan the Great, and the only Vasto Lord-level Arrancar present. Although it is now the time for the new king to replace the old king, Baragan still has a great status in the Empty Night Palace, and many old ministries even call him His Majesty in private. Scanning around the Arrancars present, Baragan snorted coldly, and immediately made the originally congested road more spacious. Even the 2 Arrancars, who were vying for the first Espada throne, trembled at this moment and left the position immediately. But Baragan did not go to the throne of the first Espada, but walked to the second Espada, and said coldly to an Ijukas Arrancar who was sitting on it, "Get out." This Ijukas-level Arrancar was stunned. He really couldn't understand that such a strong Baragan would not go to the first position, but instead compete with him for the second position. Do you think he is easy to bully? But before he could figure it out, he was grabbed by the collar by Baragan, threw it casually, and smashed it against the thick wall of the throne room. Seeing the figure embedded in the wall, all the Arrancars present were horrified. Especially the Ijukas class Arrancar sitting in the 3rd Espada position opposite Baragan, it feels like sitting on pins and needles. Seemingly unable to face the power of Baragan directly, the Ijukas-level Arrancar left the 3rd Espada's position on his own initiative, and retreated disheartened. So far, among the top 3 Espadas, only Baragan sits quietly. When all the Arrancars were faintly afraid of Baragan, only Aronilo sat calmly on the throne of the 4th Espada, and seemed not to care about Baragan's power. Since Baragan sat here, he also began to close his eyes and meditate, without any intention of driving Aronilo and the other Arrancar away. After discovering Baragan's attitude, many Arrancars once again quarreled over the positions in the back. If it wasn't for the fact that this is the throne room, the battle of life and death would have already begun. Just after they managed to stabilize the ranking again, a frivolous voice suddenly came from the gate. "Oh, it seems that there is no place for me." An Arrancar, who had just won the 10th position, heard this and immediately scolded, "Who? How dare you spy on Espada's position?" There is a hint of arrogance in the tone of this Arrancar's words, and it seems that he has already assumed the identity of Espada. Accompanied by his yelling, a man with short pink hair and an eye-frame mask walked in, causing a commotion at the scene. "Is he Zael Aporo? I didn't expect him to return to Zai Palace again." Some Manos Grande, who joined Void Knight Palace a long time ago, looked at this slightly familiar figure and said in surprise. Ignoring the shock of the crowd of Arrancars, Zael Aporo went straight to the guy who just yelled at him, that is, the Arrancar sitting in the 10th seat. "Didn't our Lord Baragan tell you that sitting in these seats will kill you?" Shayelaporo's golden eyes stared at this Arrancar like a lion majesty. His words not only made this Arrancar furious, but even the faces of all the Arrancars in other positions became very ugly. "I don't care who you are, but since you dare to talk to me like this, you are ready to die." Arrancar, who was sitting in the 10th seat, stood up and said in a cold voice, "Know the deeds of Zael Aporo." What courage! Zael Aporo was still speaking in a flirtatious tone 1 second, and quickly pinched the Arrancar's neck and lifted it up the next second. Arrancar struggled violently, his hands seemed to want to break Shayelaporo's arm, but unfortunately he couldn't break free until he died. "HMPH, dare to sit up with this level of strength." Zael Aporo said disdainfully, and then threw the corpse on the hall like trash, which made all the Arrancars in the hall avoid in horror. It seems that because of Urankarization, after being killed, the body of this Urankar did not turn into smoke particles, but the fact that the body can be seen is more deterrent than before. After finishing this Urankar, Zale Aporo looked at the rest of the Espada. Every Urankar who was swept by his golden pupils couldn't help but get nervous. Finally, Zale Aporo thought for a moment before walking to the 7th Espada's position. But before he got there, Urankar, who was sitting there, stood up and went to the 10th position by himself. Seeing that such a powerful Zale Aporo only chose the 7th position, Urankar, who was sitting in front of Zale Aporo, began to feel uneasy, and even Aronilo seemed puzzled. Zale Aporo, why don't I change seats with you? With your strength, you are definitely qualified to sit in a higher position. At this time, Urankar, who was sitting in the 5th position of Espada, finally seemed unable to bear the heavy pressure, and took the initiative to ask Zale Aporo, sitting next to him, suggested. No, I don't want to die so early. Zale Aporo refused without hesitation. Although Lin Sheng may not be as powerful as him at this time, he has a deep understanding of the strength of Stark, Ulquiorra and others. Of course, these reasons don't make him fearful. What really makes him respect Lin Sheng lies in other aspects. One is the weird situation ability, as if everything can't be hidden from him. The other is some secrets that Zale Aporo knows, some data on Lin Sheng's body. Therefore, Zale Aporo judged that Lin Sheng's potential is terrifying, and he can compete with Aizen. Of course, he himself has no intention of being an enemy, but at the same time he does not want to offend Aizen. For Zale Aporo, the most favorable situation is that both sides win him over at the same time, and then keep sending him experimental materials and various benefits, and then he will not offend both sides. When the day is decided, Zale Aporo still he is also the chief scientist of the Void Knight Palace. This, Urankar, who just proposed to change positions, turned pale after hearing Shielaporo's rejection. He looked again at Baragan and Euronilo in the front position. The former was as stable as Mount Tai, and the latter seemed to have something to rely on. It seemed reasonable for them to sit in front of him. But such a powerful Zale Aporo not only sat in the 7th position, but also said such words which made him a little frightened. In the end, the Urankar left the 5th Espada after thinking for a long time, and went to compete for the 8th, 9th, and 10th positions. At this time, among the top 7 positions, only Baragan is 2nd, Aronilo is 4th, Urankar, a black man wearing a skull earring, and Zale Aporo, who are in 7th position, are still sitting comfortably. Regarding the vacant position, the Urankars in the temple began to guess. Could it be reserved for Gargamel and Loic? One of them, Urankar, guessed. Idiot, those two guys are dead long ago. Even if they are still alive, Master Baragan doesn't need to be afraid of them. It seems that an old member of Baragan interjected. I think of someone. Ludben, who looked like a bull's head, mused. Oh, let's hear it. It doesn't seem like a small character to make you Ludben show such a look, said the sinister Urankar who first mocked Amber. His name was Ace Linka, and he was a Ajuka's early Urankar. Do you still remember the young man who carried out Urankarization for us? When they came to the Void Knight Palace, they made a lot of noise. Ludben recalled. For some reason, he had a very clear impression of Lin Sheng. Lutherben's analysis was quickly confirmed. In a burst of panic, all the Urankars consciously gave way to a very wide road. A young man walked in first, followed by 4 Urankars of Vasto Lord class and 5 Urankars of Ajuka's class. This lineup was far more shocking than when Baragan played before. Even without any driving or words, the Urankars on the scene still felt chilling. This level of suppression is unmistakable. Those 4 are definitely Vasto Lord level existences. Bullhead Shu Ludben looked at Stark, Hurley Bell and others and said in a deep voice. How could there be so many Vasto Lord level Urankars? Ace Linka was shocked. Before that, he was still proud of his status as an Ajuka's level Urankar. After all, Vasto Lord is extremely rare in Hueco Mundo. But now counting Baragan and Zale Aporo, there are already 6 Manos Grandes of Vasto Lord level appearing here, and the young man who is Urankar for them seems to be not easy. The appearance of Lin Sheng and others set off a huge wave in the hearts of all Urankars. Even Aronilo and the black Urankar who were sitting on the seat of Espada were a little shocked. Who are they? There are such Reiatsu. Aronilo asked in a creepy voice. At this moment, the two heads in his glass jar kept flipping over and producing a bunch of bubbles, which represented his emotional uneasiness. The black Arankar did not speak. Of course he knew who was coming. After all, everyone who had been transformed into Arankar knew Lin Sheng, but he did not expect that there would be so many powerful Vasto lords. After looking at the many vacancies in front of him, Arankar, the black man, immediately felt relieved. After all, he was very confident in his own strength, and he was sitting in the 6th position, so there must be no problem. At this time, Lin Sheng, who walked into the throne room, first scanned the situation in the hall, and then looked at the gate of the side hall. He knew that the three of Aizen must be sitting in the side hall, drinking tea and watching a play, and then waiting for their own conclusion. It seems that the competition for Espada has already started. Lin Sheng said to Stark and others. Are these seats? Stark asked, looking at the numbered seats. That's right, this should be the ranking of Espada. Whoever sits in the number position will be the number Espada. Lin Sheng confirmed after finding out that the three of Aizen had no plans to come out. Then shall we try our best to compete for the front seats? Hurley Bell looked at the seats that were already occupied, and asked Lin Sheng. This is up to everyone's own will. Lin Sheng said casually. He wanted to see how everyone would choose without his own interference. Then I'll go to the 10th position. Stark lazily walked towards the 10th position, rubbing the back of his head. It seemed that he planned to paddle to the end. But before Lin Sheng and others objected, Baragan, who was sitting in the 2nd seat, took the lead in angrily saying, Stark, are you humiliating the old man? This made Stark wonder, how could he humiliate Baragan by picking number 10? But what Baragan said next surprised all Arankars, and Baragan pointed to the number 1 position and said, as the only person who can beat the old man, only you are qualified to sit in this position. This sentence immediately caused an uproar. Arankar was first stunned, then shocked, and finally realized. No wonder Baragan, who is so self-righteous, didn't sit in the first place. It turned out that it was reserved for this guy named Stark. But who is Stark? How is it never heard in Hueco Mundo? Its strength is even higher than that of the former king of Hueco Mundo, Baragan. All the Arankars in the hall looked at this unattractive middle-aged uncle in front of them, and couldn't imagine that he actually possessed such great strength. Stark himself was a little surprised. He also wondered why Baragan was sitting in the 2nd place. Now he understood that it was reserved for himself. At this time, Lin Sheng also persuaded, Stark, since it is Mr. Baragan's kindness, then you should be number 1. But, Stark looked at Lin Sheng with some hesitation. He knew Lin Sheng's true strength. In his opinion, Lin Sheng should be the most qualified to take this position. Seemingly understanding Stark's meaning, Lin Sheng stepped forward and pushed Stark, signaling him not to take it to heart. In desperation, Stark had no choice but to sit in the number 1 position. In fact, he was really in the number 10 position, at least that would save a lot of things. After pushing away Stark, Lin Sheng turned to Hurley Bell, Ulquiorra and Nailu said, So, are you going to compete with Baragan for number 2? With your strength, there should be no problem. Hearing this, Baragan's face suddenly became embarrassed. What do you mean it's okay to compete with the old man for number 2? It seems that they are all better than the old man. But he looked at Stark beside him, and in the end he didn't get up and scold Lin Sheng and others. In fact, this is really not Lin Sheng's nonsense. Compared with the situation in the original book, Hurley Bell, Ulquiorra and Nailu at this time, their Arankar level has improved a lot, and their strength and Reiatsu are only worse than Stark. It's just a line. I don't like number 2, it's too ugly. Nailu said with some disgust. I'll go to number 4. Ulquiorra said blankly, and walked directly to number 4's position. Get out of the way. Ulquiorra said indifferently to Aronilo, who was sitting in his seat. Who are you? How dare you be so presumptuous? I am the first batch of Espada conferred by Master Aizen. Aronilo didn't intend to give up his seat at all, but instead yelled at Ulquiorra. Boom! A huge Reiatsu erupted directly from Ulquiorra, crushing Aronilo. What? Aronilo felt as if he was placed in the ocean. He was like that fragile boat, being crushed wantonly by Ulquiorra's Reiatsu. Scary Reiatsu. It's hard to breathe. Is this the power of the Vasto Lord class? At this moment, Arankar, who was affected in the temple, was also trembling under the Reiatsu of Ulquiorra. They felt so difficult knowing that this was only affected, not the center of the storm. Even Baragan, who was sitting in the second seat, looked serious at this moment. He seemed to understand that what Lin Sheng said just now was probably not bluffing him, because this guy named Ulquiorra in front of him, his Reiatsu was really on par with him, maybe even stronger than him. How is this going? When did so many powerful beings appear in Hueco Mundo? I know. Euronilo, who was sitting in the fourth position, said with difficulty that the two heads in his glass tank were about to roll up, which also represented how much pressure he was under at the moment. Aronilo, the ninth Espada in the original book, is as strong as a Juchaz Peak Arankar, but even with such a powerful existence, he feels powerless in the face of the even more terrifying Ulquiorra. With Aronilo giving way, Ulquiorra finally took the position of number 4 Espada, which made Lin Sheng have to sigh that Ulquiorra is really destined for number 4. Seeing that Stark and Ulquiorra were seated separately, Nailu said to Hurley Bell, "Sister Hurley Bell, you can be number 3, and then I'll go to number 5, so that we can sit together." "But, Nailu." Hurley Bell seemed a little hesitant, but just when she was about to say something, Nailu dragged her to the seat number 3 and pushed her down on the seat, while Nailu herself was number 5 sitting next to Hurley Bell. Position. In this way, among the people present, only Lin Sheng has not yet selected a position. As for Sun Sun and others, although they are also very strong, they have no idea of running for Espada, while Peishui and Dong Chaka are directly in the position of strength. Not enough, they have only been promoted to Ajukas not long ago, and their strength is much worse. Lin Sheng first looked at Arankar, the black man in the 6th position, shook his head to express his lack of interest, and then walked directly in front of Zael Aporo in the 7th position. "Zael Aporo, what are you doing here if you don't compete for the first few positions?" Lin Sheng asked aloud. "Didn't I make way for you in advance? Do you need me to help you drive out that black Arankar?" Zael Aporo smiled at Kaido, as if the thing that was debunked by Lin Sheng and others before did not exist. "No need, but I want your position," Lin Sheng said, staring at Zael Aporo. He wants to see how Zael Aporo chooses, whether to rely on the power of Aizen to completely break with himself and others, or to obey orders as before. Zael Aporo seemed to have thought of this too. He put away his fake smile, and looked at Lin Sheng calmly. The dignified atmosphere began to permeate here, and everyone's eyes were focused here, as if they were waiting for a shocking battle. Just when everyone thought that Zael Aporo was about to make a move, he returned to that smirk again, stood up and said frivolously, "Since you want to sit with Neliel, you should have said it earlier, why make the atmosphere so dignified?" After speaking, Zael Aporo left the 7th position and went straight to the black Arankar in the 6th position. Looking at the back of Zael Aporo leaving, Lin Sheng looked very calm, as if he had expected this scene a long time ago. As Zael Aporo got closer and closer to the number 6 position, the black Arankar's face became serious, and then he stood up directly and exuded a powerful Reiatsu. "Oh, don't you still want to resist?" Zael Aporo said quite unexpectedly. "Zael Aporo, don't think that I, Zamari Ruro, will fear you like everyone else." The black Arankar, also known as Zamari Ruro, said without showing any weakness. Zamari Ruro, the 7th Espada in the original book, Ijuka's peak level Arankar, represents the way of death as intoxication, and is characterized by extremely fast movement. Of course, he is also one of the Arankars who admire Aizen the most. "It's really interesting, then go to hell," Zael Aporo said murderously, and then grabbed Zamari's neck with one hand. "It's that move again," Zamari said nonchalantly, having been there when Zael Aporo killed the other Arankars. Boom. Respond to action. Zamari dodges the attack with ease, appearing flanking and behind Zael Aporo, taunting, "Too slow." Just as he said this, a gust of wind hit the black man Arankar Zamari in an instant. Wow. The power of this punch was terrifying, instantly causing Zamari to spit out a mouthful of blood. "Did you say something just now? I didn't hear clearly, can you say it again?" Zael Aporo slowly retracted his fist and said with some contempt. Zamari said angrily, then pulled out a handful of Zanpakuto from his chest, folded his hands together, turned his head sideways. Zanpakuto began to bend and squeeze out smoke to cover his whole body. "Calm down," cursed Isanga. A huge reiatsu suddenly began to spread rapidly around Zamari, which made some weak Arankars in the temple feel as if they were trapped in some viscous liquid, and began to breathe rapidly. Returning the blade, Zale Aporo murmured, then put his hands on his waist, and slowly pulled out his Zanpakuto. It seemed that he also meant to be serious. As the black smoke permeating here gradually dissipated, a terrifying figure with as many as 50 eyes on his body and a peach-colored pumpkin-shaped lower body appeared. It was Zamari who returned to the blade. Zale Aporo, let me punish you with fraternity. Zamari put his hands together, and his eyes all over his body exuded a strange light. It's ridiculous that a guy like you can say something like fraternity. Zale Aporo chuckled. But he soon discovered something was wrong, because at this moment, multiple sun-shaped patterns began to appear on his body. What is this? Zale Aporo looked at these strange patterns and asked with some doubts. This is my power, and the parts irradiated by my eyes will be controlled by me at will. Zamari said with a solemn face. If his appearance is ignored, it really has a hint of Buddha's reincarnation. Domination. That's really interesting. Zale Aporo said with a smile, although his body was mostly out of control, because he was also an expert in this area. Just as Zale Aporo was holding Zanpakuto tightly and was about to return the sword, the door of the side hall of the throne room was pushed open at this moment, and 3 figures in Haori walked out from it. Lord Aizen, Arankar, who was present at the scene, immediately bowed and saluted after seeing the person coming. Even Zale Aporo and Zamari, who were fighting, temporarily stopped the moves they were about to make. Come here, Zale Aporo, Zamari Ruro. Aizen said calmly. Yes. Zale Aporo immediately put down Zanpakuto and responded with a smile. In his opinion, Aizen appeared at this time by coincidence, clearly to save Zamari Ruro. But, Zamari seemed to be a little bit unwilling. In his opinion, the victory will belong to him immediately. Need I repeat that, Lord Zamari Ruro? Aizen said indifferently, looking at Zamari. No need. Zamari whispered Kaido, and then released the returning blade status. Next, I will announce the latest appointment of Espada. Aizen said, looking down at all the Arankars in the hall, and of course, he did not forget to take a second look at Lin Sheng. First Espada Coyote Stark, second Espada Baragan Luzenbaron, third Espada Tia Hurley Bell, fourth Espada Ulquiorra Cipher, fifth Espada Neliel Tu Odelschwenk, sixth Espada Zale Aporo Grants, seventh Espada Lin Sheng Long Yin, eighth Espada Zamari Ruro, the ninth Espada Ariniero Ururueri, 10th Espada Kane Austin. The above Espada members can independently recruit subordinate officials, and assist in the affairs of the Zai Palace when we are away. With the appointment of Aizen, although some people are still quite unwilling, they can only bow down and accept the order. Soul Society, Jingling Court. It is like the imperial city of the Soul Society. It is composed of a continuous building complex. It covers an area of about 133,000 square miles and a radius of about 365 miles. It takes about 40 days. The Jingling Court is not only big, but also has many special features, such as the walls around it, which are made of murderous stones that can block spiritual power. The murderous stone has the function of disintegrating spiritual power. When encountering foreign enemies, it will produce a spherical protective shield to protect Jinglingting from the air to the ground. If you want to enter Jinglingting from Rukongai safely, you must go through 4 main gates. These 4 main gates are Zaibeidao Gate, Dongqingliu Gate, North Hailang Gate, and South Zua Gate. But the 4th gate is guarded by 4 heroes carefully selected by the Soul Society. At this time, Madarame Makaku and Ayasagawa Yumachika were leading Lin Sheng into Jinglingting from the West Beidao Gate next to the Junyang Lingshu Academy. Walking in front of this gigantic Beidao Gate, the first thing you see is a burly man with long hair down to his waist and wearing a red hat. The strong man wears silver armor on his left arm and holds 2 huge axes in both hands. This look, Lin Sheng recognized at a glance. It is the guard of Beidaiman, Yiguanban Danfeng. Yijiao, why did you come back so soon? And this little brother? Si Danfeng asked in his rough voice. He is the new player our 11th team will recruit this time. Madarame Makaku said equally boldly, as if he often dealt with Si Danfeng. So that's it, is that him? See, Danfeng looked at Lin Sheng suddenly. It seemed that Madarame Makaku and others had mentioned it to him. Then Sai Danfeng stopped asking too much. After all, his duty was to prevent foreign enemies from invading. Since he was sure that there was no problem, he would of course open the white gate to let them through. Sai Danfeng, say hello to Silufang for me. Iyasagawa Yumachika said with a smile as he walked through Baidaemen. Silufang, whose full name is Yiguansaka Silufang, is the 4th seat of the Gotei 13th 7th Division. He is the younger brother of Sai Danfeng, and he is also familiar with Iyasagawa Yumachika. Okay, I'll tell that kid. Kaido, who laughed at Sai Danfeng, although he didn't care, he was very satisfied with his brother's achievements. After passing through the West Beidao Gate, it is the outer court of the Jingling Court, where some nobles and various team houses are located. Some more important departments, such as the Central Underground Meeting Room, Gotei 13 Headquarters, and the Technology Development Bureau, will be set up in the inner court of Jinglingting. But even the outer court of the Jingling Court has an extremely beautiful environment, with large grasslands and low-lying mountains everywhere, embellishing this place like a paradise. However, the buildings in the outer court are divided into two extremes. One is the simple houses with light-colored walls and tiled roofs. These are basically the team buildings of various teams and some unimportant offices. The other is the luxury of the ultimate palace, such as the Kuchiki's house that Lin Sheng and the others just passed by, which are basically regarded as landmark buildings in the vicinity. After that, Lin Sheng and others passed by the team buildings of the 6th team and the 3rd team one after another, and finally came to a building with the word 11 engraved on it. This is the dormitory of our 11th team. I will take you to meet the captain first, and then I will assign you a place to live. Madarame Makaku said, pointing to the residence ahead. Lin Sheng nodded, wondering if Zaraki Kenpachi would be easy to get along with at this time. Maybe, if he didn't come up, he would just ask himself to cut a fight, right? Don't be so nervous, the captain is a very gentle person. Iyasagawa Yumachika patted Lin Sheng's shoulder and said, but he laughed himself first while talking. Seeing Iyasagawa Yumachika grinning from ear to ear, Lin Sheng suddenly realized that this kid also has a mean side. Came outside the captain of the 11th team, Madarame Makaku knocked on the door tentatively. He probably wondered if the captain is not here at this time. Then the assessment of new players joining the team can be handed over to Madarame Makaku. Suddenly, bang! Before Madarame Makaku could react, the door was suddenly pushed open, and then a fierce man wearing a white jagged feather with a ferocious face and a scar on the left side of his face came out. Behind him, a petite girl with pink hair also came out. It's a corner, have you brought that kid already? The fierce man in white feathered fabric asked first, then after scanning around, he set his sights on Lin Sheng. So you are here, Captain. Madarame Makaku was surprised at first, and then immediately reacted and introduced to this fierce man. Captain, he is the very potential kid I mentioned to you, named Dongfang Yunsheng. Dongfang Yunsheng, these two are the Captain Zaraki Kenpachi and the Vice Captain Kusajishi Yakiru of our 11th team. Iyasagawa Yumachika on the side also introduced Lin Sheng. Captain Zaraki, Vice Captain Yachinliu. Lin Sheng greeted politely. Xiao Yun, hello. Kusajishi Yakiru said, waving his little hand, and gave Lin Sheng a nickname by the way. I heard from a corner that your strength is very good, so let me take a look at your strength first. Zaraki Kenpachi smiled ferociously with his mouth open. Sure enough, as expected of Zaraki Kenpachi, he was going to cut each other as soon as he came up. Lin Sheng thought as expected. Captain, I was the one who discovered this kid first, let me come first. Madarame Makaku on the side suddenly said a little unhappy. He also wanted to have a bloody battle with Lin Sheng while the captain was away, but he didn't expect to be preempted by the captain now. Yi Zhao, after this kid joins our fan team, you have time to play. Look at me, nothing happened recently, I'm almost bored to death. Zaraki Kenpachi directly rejected Yi Zhao's proposal. Captain, although Dongfang Yunsheng's potential is good, but after all, he has just graduated, isn't it a little bit to play against you? At this time, Iyasagawa Yumachika reminded from the side. Don't worry, I won't hack him to death. Zaraki Kenpachi said casually, waving his hand. These words made Lin Sheng a little ashamed. What do you mean he won't hack me to death? Could this be the entry ceremony of the 11th squad? But even if ordinary players have this ritual, it is impossible to fight against Zaraki Kenpachi, right? Looking at the depressed Madarame Makaku, Lin Sheng estimated that this kid must have blown himself too far, which attracted Zaraki Kenpachi's interest. Boy, aren't you afraid? Zaraki Kenpachi said fiercely to Lin, who had been silent all this time. He was afraid that Lin would be cowardly, and he would lose a lot of fun. Since you want to test my strength, of course that's fine, but I hope Captain Zaraki will be merciful. Lin Sheng said helplessly to Kaido. He really can't back down at this time, he can only hope that Zaraki Kenpachi will show mercy. But do people like Zaraki Kenpachi really understand what it means to show mercy? Since you are fine, let's go to the arena now. Zaraki Kenpachi said eagerly, and then turned around and led everyone to the arena of the 11th team. The 11th team is stationed in the martial arts arena. All kinds of fighting and slashing battles are going on here. They are all members of the 11th team and are currently undergoing daily training. Compared with the rare battle scenes of other teams, the 11th team regards this kind of fighting as a daily practice. At this moment, perhaps seeing Zaraki Kenpachi walking over with Madarame Makaku and others, the team members who were training stopped fighting in their hands and said hello to Zaraki Kenpachi and others. I want to test the strength of the new players here. Zaraki Kenpachi said as he walked onto the ring carrying the sealed state, which made Lin Sheng, who was right behind him, had to bite the bullet and follow. Who actually needs the captain to personally test? One of the team members said in surprise. Would that young man be a student who just graduated from the Junyang Academy of Spiritual Art? Another team member said, looking at the clothes on Lin Sheng's body that he hadn't had time to change. Even Madara Masanji, Iyasugawa Gokuchi, and Vice Captain Kusaka are here. A curly-haired Shinigami in charge of this place said in amazement, which is equivalent to the strongest combat power of their team. Done. Curly-haired Shinigami's name is Araki Makizo, and he is the 7th seat of the 11th team. His main job is to maintain the order of the competition field. After all, there are often guys who make real fire here, and he has to stop it at the right time. At this time, the other members of the 11th squad nearby also seemed to have noticed the abnormality here, and they gathered here one after another to the competition field, and they discussed it with relish, as if they were very enthusiastic about this kind of battle. Xiaojian, Xiaoyun, you all have to work hard. Kusajishi Yakiru, the vice captain, said for them after finding a good position. Yunsheng, show the captain a good look at your strength. Madarame Makaku yelled as if he didn't think it was a big deal. Don't listen to him, it's already great to survive 3 moves under the captain's hands. Iyasugawa Yumichika reminded from the side. 3 strokes. Lin Sheng murmured while holding the sealed state tightly. To be honest, there must be a huge difference between his strength and Zaraki Kenpachi at this moment. It is impossible to win, but he can try a few tricks. Boy, don't you know Shikai? Use that directly, or it will be boring if it ends too soon. Zaraki Kenpachi said with a wicked smile. Shikai. Lin Sheng first looked at the monster-like Zaraki Kenpachi, then at the sealed state he was holding tightly in his hand, and then released Shikai without hesitation. Shake the 9 heavens, Qingying. With the disappearance of the white light, the sealed state in Lin Sheng's hand has changed into an ancient Chinese sword, and its Reiatsu has also rapidly increased to twice the level. Generally speaking, the Reiatsu added by Shikai is not so much, but more reflected in the changes of Zanpakuto. But this increase is not much compared with Bankai. In fact, Shikai will still enhance its own Reiatsu by 1 to 3 times, while Bankai usually increases by 5 to 10 times. Now Lin Sheng just doubled the Reiatsu, which can only be regarded as an ordinary Shikai among the Shikai, not a very good Shikai. Of course, even if some powerful beings don't even release Shikai, they can kill a few captains who know Bankai, such as the one in front of Lin Sheng now, Zaraki Kenpachi. Reiatsu is barely enough, it depends on you, can't help but chop. Zaraki Kenpachi casually commented while holding the jagged sealed state. But what he said is correct, Lin Sheng's current Reiatsu strength is only the lowest level among vice captains, plus an ordinary Shikai, which is much worse than Madarame Makaku, so Zaraki Kenpachi is of course a little disappointed. Did you only get a bad evaluation? Lin Sheng said helplessly after releasing Shikai. Does Zaraki Kenpachi think everyone is a monster like him? I have only just studied at the Junyang Academy of Spiritual Art for a year. Well, I'll let you do a few tricks first, and you can chop anywhere you want. Zaraki Kenpachi said as he tore off the haori on his chest, exposing his chest. This. Lin Sheng was surprised. Although he already knew that Zaraki Kenpachi had a knife delivery service, it was another matter to meet him in person. Looking at Lin Sheng, who was hesitating, Madarame Makaku in the audience thought that he was struggling with whether to betray the spirit of the warrior, and immediately reminded him, "Idiot, do you think you can cut the captain? Don't care about the morals of those warriors, just go ahead and do it. Since the captain gave you this opportunity, you can rest assured to show your strength. After all, no matter how strong you are, you can't hurt the captain." Iyasagawa Yumichika also added, "Do you think I am entangled in warrior morality and do not want to attack?" Lin Sheng grasped the blue shadow and thought. This kind of thing can't restrain him, and Lin Sheng is not the kind of person who will be bound by rules and regulations. Moreover, such things as warrior morality are only worthy of possession when the two are not much different. Today, he does not have this qualification when facing the monster like Zaraki Kenpachi. Let the horse come here, it doesn't matter if it's the neck, stomach or eyeballs. Of course, it would be even better if you can kill me with a single knife. Come on, what are you afraid of? At the end, Zaraki Kenpachi has begun, shouted excitedly. Then Captain Zaraki, you have to be careful. After Lin Sheng finished speaking, he grabbed Qingying and rushed out quickly, and launched Shunpo several times in an instant. Hey, Zaraki Kenpachi tilted his head and laughed ferociously. He didn't do any blocking, just opened his arms wide open and waited for Lin Sheng to slash. Laugh. Lin Sheng's Zanpakudo cut directly at Zaraki Kenpachi's shoulder, but the sound was very strange, it didn't seem like the sound of cutting in. TCH, what a disappointment, Zaraki Kenpachi said with some dissatisfaction, then held Lin Sheng's blade with one hand, and took it from his shoulder. At this moment, there was only a white mark on Zaraki Kenpachi's shoulder, and there was no harm other than that. There's only one white mark. Lin Sheng was surprised, his all-out attack only caused this kind of damage to Zaraki Kenpachi. Is this the only level of your attack? It's so limp and meaningless, said Zaraki Kenpachi, releasing Lin Sheng's Zanpakudo. Hearing this, Lin Sheng frowned, and then assumed a sword dancing pose. Blue sword flower flying. Immediately, a series of fierce sword chi, with Lin Sheng as the center, presented a fan and shot towards Zaraki Kenpachi. Ding! 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 Faced with these attacks, Zaraki Kenpachi also waved his sealed state to block, but there were still a few sword chi flying past him, wiping out a few bloodstains. Yes, that's the kind of attack, that's the kind of fight, ha ha ha. Zaraki Kenpachi looked at his position where a few bloodstains were wiped out, and seemed to finally have a little interest, even with an excited expression on his face. But Lin Sheng couldn't be happier. His strongest attack in the blue shadow state turned out to only scratch Zaraki Kenpachi, which was far from the result he expected. Come on, let's slash at each other. Zaraki Kenpachi attacked Lin Sheng with a knife, and his emotions seemed to be a little high at the moment. Boom! With just the first impact of the knife, Lin Sheng's tiger's mouth split open, and even Qingying almost flew out of his hand. But Zaraki Kenpachi seems to have forgotten that this is just a competition, and the second knife followed the first knife again. As for Lin Sheng's injured hands, the speed of swinging the sword was a bit slower at the moment, exposing the empty door to Zaraki Kenpachi's knife. Captain, Madarame Makaku and Iyasagawa Yumichika shouted hurriedly, but it was too late. Looking at the approaching knife light, Lin Sheng suddenly found that the flow of time around him slowed down, and his thoughts seemed to be being pulled into another world. This is a world like the beginning of the primordial world. You can't see the edge of this world, and you can't see the real face of this world, because they are all shrouded in boundless darkness, only streams of light that swipe away from time to time light here. This is my inner world. Lin Sheng woke up suddenly, he realized that he had actually entered the inner world during the battle. At this time, a beautiful woman in ancient costume wearing a light green dress appeared beside Lin Sheng, shining with a faint light. Have you come back here again? The green figure asked softly, her voice was very soft, with a sense of gentleness like a lady. Qingying, did you call me here? Lin Sheng asked with some doubts after seeing the figure clearly. No, it's not me, maybe other sisters are calling you. The woman in the green skirt named Qingying said, looking at the 4 faint lights in the center of the world. The other sisters. Could it be? Speaking of this, Lin Sheng seemed to understand something, and jumped to the center of this world, the place of birth. Lin Sheng, who came here, found that the second of the 5 breeding grounds was emitting an extremely bright purple light at this moment. Especially after Lin Sheng walked into this birthing place, the purple light suddenly flourished, as if illuminating the entire primordial space, and finally it seemed to reach a certain peak, and the purple light shrank back again after being extremely shining. With the complete dissipation of the purple light, the dense fog permeating the second breeding ground began to dissipate, revealing a woman in a purple veil. Blue shadow. After seeing the face of the woman in the purple gauze skirt, Lin Sheng couldn't help but be surprised. Because this purple-clothed woman looks exactly like Qingying. Although the clothes, accessories, and makeup are different, Lin Sheng still recognizes it at a glance. Although we look the same, my name is not Qingying. The woman in the purple gauze skirt said coldly, as if she was inclined towards the cold type. Lin Sheng looked at the blue shadow who hadn't come over in the distance, and then at the tall and cold woman in the purple gauze skirt in front of him, and found that although their appearances were somewhat similar, their temperaments were quite different. Then what's your name? Lin Sheng asked subconsciously. And the woman in purple seems to have been waiting for this moment long ago, only to hear her say in a deep voice, my name is. As soon as the woman in purple said this, Lin Sheng's hearing seemed to be disturbed, and it became more and more difficult to hear clearly. When he wanted to ask again, Lin Sheng found himself back in front of Zaraki Kenpachi again, and time seemed to be running again at this moment. First, there was the shout of someone waiting for a corner, and then that extremely fast knife quickly slashed at him. Boom! There was a huge collision sound. First Zaraki Kenpachi was stunned, and then even Madarame Makaku and others were surprised. Their surprise was not just because Lin Sheng blocked Zaraki Kenpachi's blow, but that the ancient blue sword in Lin Sheng's hand turned into a long spear shining with purple light. The second Zanpakuto, Iyasagawa Yumichika said in surprise. The second Zanpakuto is owned by many people in the Soul Society, but it is a pair of weapons after liberation. I have never heard of a direct change of shape. Madarame Makaku also seemed to have thought of something, and said something that even he couldn't believe. Could it be Bankai? It should be just Shikai. You see Xiaoyun's Reiatsu hasn't improved much. Kusajishi Yakiru also interjected. Although she looks like a child, she analyzes things clearly and methodically. At this moment, Lin Sheng, who had just separated from Zaraki Kenpachi in the ring, seemed to have heard the conversation of Madarame Makaku and others, and explained with a slightly raised mouth, this is neither Bankai nor the second Zanpakuto, but my Shikai's second form. Shikai's second form. Madarame Makaku and Iyasagawa Yumichika looked at each other. When did Shikai have a second form? Why haven't they even heard of it? This has something to do with my Zanpakuto's ability. Lin Sheng seemed to know the mess in their minds, and explained again, but he didn't intend to continue talking at this point. TCH, what is Shikai? What is the second form? But your Reiatsu is indeed stronger than before. Zaraki Kenpachi drew an arc in the sealed state in his hand, and said a little indifferently. For him, whether it is Shikai or Bankai, they are all vain things, and only Reiatsu is the real strength. Then let Captain Zaraki experience the power of my Zishao. Lin Sheng said confidently. At this moment, his Reiatsu after Shikai has increased 3 times, and has reached the level of an excellent Shikai. Although Reiatsu has not improved much compared to before, but with the power of his Zishao gun, at least he will not be defeated so easily. Of course, Lin Sheng's not easily defeated refers to Zaraki Kenpachi not taking off the blindfold. Chapter 91. Boom. The sound of swords and guns clashing kept ringing here, shaking the arena trembling. Reiatsu is raging, strong winds are howling, and the battle between Zaraki Kenpachi and Lin Sheng seems to be intensifying. Brush. A flash of light appeared, and Zaraki Kenpachi's attack struck again. Lin Sheng swung his spear and barely blocked the attack with the gun barrel. Boy, don't always defend, you have to hit me at least, otherwise this match won't be over. Zaraki Kenpachi said with a big grin. In this case, then Captain Zaraki, you have to be careful. Lin Sheng reminded with a solemn expression, and then with a force of both hands, he shook Zaraki Kenpachi's Zanpakuto. After shaking Zaraki Kenpachi away, Lin Sheng lowered his whole body, pointed the tip of the Zishao gun in his hand at Zaraki Kenpachi and emitted a strange purple light. Purple spear traveling dragon. Suddenly an electric arc flickered on the Zishao gun, and then Lin Sheng spun the Zishao gun in midair at high speed, attacking Zaraki Kenpachi with a top-speed stab. During this process, with Lin Sheng and Zishao gun as the center, purple thunder and lightning kept bursting out to the surroundings, causing the crowd watching the battle and the audience to back off one after another. What an astonishing power! It seems that all the Reiatsu are gathered at the tip of the spear. Iyasagawa Yumichika analyzed while stepping back. Even they had to retreat from this move, because a thunderbolt exploded beside them just now. Although the few of them were not unable to stop these, if they were affected by the aftermath and made a mess, it is estimated that to be ridiculed for quite some time. Yunsheng really didn't disappoint me, and I will definitely ask him to fight in the future. Madarame Makaku seemed to be affected by the fighting atmosphere on the stage, and said with some enthusiasm. At this moment, on the ring. Haha, it's interesting to fight like this. Seeing Lin Sheng's powerful attack, Zaraki Kenpachi became more and more excited. He also didn't dodge, but just raised the sealed state in his hand, ready to forcefully follow. Boom! Like a flash of thunder, the spinning Zishao gun collided with Zaraki Kenpachi's sealed state, creating a huge Reiatsu explosion that filled the ring with gunpowder. Small sword. Kusajishi Yakiru yelled worriedly. Madarame Makaku and Iyasagawa Yumichika also watched the ring nervously, as if they were waiting for the moment when the winner would be announced. As the smoke dissipated, Lin Sheng and Zaraki Kenpachi reappeared in the ring. At this time, Lin Sheng's spinning stab had stopped, and Zaraki Kenpachi's blade was also under the blade of Zishao's gun. As for the tip of Zishao's gun, it had pierced into Zaraki Kenpachi's shoulder. Captain! Madarame Makaku and Iyasagawa Yumichika exclaimed in surprise. Their captain Zaraki Kenpachi didn't completely block the move. Captain Zaraki, the test on me should be considered over. Lin Sheng asked with Zishaogun drawn back. He has fulfilled the requirements, Zaraki Kenpachi said. Of course, he himself is no longer willing to play. Looking at the wound on his shoulder and seeing the blood flowing out, Zaraki Kenpachi laughed instead. Boy, I take back what I said before, because the real battle has just begun. After finishing speaking, Zaraki Kenpachi pulled off the blindfold on his eyes, and suddenly a huge Reiatsu surged into the sky in the Jingling Court, which caused all the Shinigami in the Jingling Court to move towards the 11th team's station direction. Is that Zaraki Kenpachi guy again? In the ancient and luxurious noble mansion, a handsome man wearing a hair ornament, star-leading pliers, which only the great nobles are entitled to wear, and a neck scarf called silver and white windflower yarn, looked in the direction of the 11th team said. Go and find out why Zaraki Kenpachi exploded Reiatsu. An old but very majestic voice came out from the first squad station, and then saw the figure of Chojiro Sasaki, the deputy captain of the first squad, gradually disappearing in place. The huge Reiatsu erupted by Zaraki Kenpachi caused huge waves in Jinglingting, which caused other teams to send their men or captains to investigate in person. The 11th team, the martial arts arena. Captain Zaraki, you're breaking your promise like this. Lin Sheng looked at the monster like Zaraki Kenpachi and said helplessly. If you don't defend it, don't defend it, I just want to have a good fight with you now. Zaraki Kenpachi said indifferently. Then I admit defeat, it's okay to admit defeat, right? Lin Sheng said with a forced smile. Don't spoil the fun, kid, I just got interested. Zaraki Kenpachi said with a ferocious face, and then attacked Lin Sheng with a knife. Boom! There was a huge force, and the Zishaogun in Lin Sheng's hand was almost chopped off. It's too strong. With my current strength, it's impossible to win against this monster. Lin Sheng, whose forehead was covered with sweat, thought after narrowly avoiding a blow. Captain, it's almost over here. Madarame Makaku in the audience, seeing Lin Sheng who was already at an absolute disadvantage, couldn't help shouting. Xiaojian, don't kill Xiaoyun. Kusajishi Yakiru also reminded him. The shouts of the crowd seemed to wake Zaraki Kenpachi from the battle, and even the madness on his face was subdued, but the knife he was attacking Lin Sheng at this moment seemed to be irreversible. No, I won't be able to stop if I'm not careful. Zaraki Kenpachi, who woke up from the fight, wanted to stop, but because the distance was too close, the knife couldn't change direction and went straight to Lin Sheng's neck. Just when everyone thought that Lin Sheng would be seriously injured even if he was not dead, a wave of Reiatsu burst out from him, which was far stronger than Zaraki Kenpachi. Boom! The gigantic Reiatsu formed a thick beam of light straight into the sky of Jingalingting, and instantly knocked Zaraki Kenpachi flying beside him. What happened to this kid? Zaraki Kenpachi looked at Lin Sheng, who looked like a demon god, and said in surprise. Is this Dongfang Yunsheng? Iyasagawa Yumachika asked unsurely, panting heavily. Good boy, there is such a powerful force hidden. Madarame Makaku also said in shock against this huge Reiatsu. Except for a few of them who were relatively strong at the scene, the rest of the ordinary players were already lying on the ground. Not to mention them, even Lin Sheng himself was very surprised at the moment. He was facing a crisis just now. For some reason, a huge Reiatsu surged out of his body, causing his body to be filled with endless power, so Zaraki Kenpachi was easily blown away. Wait, I was just now in Hawako Mundo, it seems that Aizen is banning Reiatsu with Bakudo. Could it be that it was because of another reason why I sent Reiatsu here? But obviously, this is not the time to analyze this kind of thing. Lin Sheng's Reiatsu, which is stronger than Zaraki Kenpachi, has caused more serious consequences than before. First came the huge Reiatsu rising from the 1st Division, then the 8th Division, the 2nd Division, the 10th Division, and the huge Reiatsu coming from the 7th Division, and they all gathered towards the 11th Division's residence. Haha, that's it, come and kill me. After seeing Lin Sheng's huge Reiatsu, Zaraki Kenpachi not only did not feel any fear, but became excited again. But unfortunately, before Zaraki Kenpachi made another shot, Lin Sheng, who was floating in midair and released a huge Reiatsu, seemed to be drained. Not only did the Reiatsu scatter, but his body seemed to be paralyzed in the ring due to lack of strength. Superior. What's going on? Zaraki Kenpachi said with a confused face. At this time, Madarame Makaku and Iyasagawa Yumachika, who didn't know why, jumped onto the ring in a hurry and came to Lin Sheng's side. Iyasagawa Yumachika said after checking the signs of Lin Sheng's body, it seems that he passed out because of exhaustion. Then I'll send Yunsheng to Team 4. With that said, Madarame Makaku picked up Lin Sheng on his back and prepared to go to the hospital where Team 4 is located for treatment. What's going on here? Suddenly, a majestic voice sounded, waking up the 11th team present. I saw a majestic old man with a silver-white beard hanging down his waist and wearing a number of white feathers, standing in midair with a cane. Master Zong Zong, Makizo Aramaki stammered. He was really scared. The captain is equivalent to the ruler of the Soul Society, the existence that governs Gote 13 and the Soul Society. Of course there is another amazing title, that is the strongest Shinigami in the history of the Soul Society title. Madarame Makaku and the others were also quite surprised. They thought that what happened here would attract the attention of other teams in Jingalingting, but they didn't expect that the captain would come in person. But before they were completely surprised, Kiraku Shunsui, wearing 2 fancy hairpins, wearing a pink Haori jacket and hat, also appeared in the sky above the 11th team's garrison, and stared at Madarame at a glance Lin Sheng on Akaku's back. Something interesting seems to be happening here. I didn't expect that even the leader of the Beijing band is here. Araki Maki said in shock again. But in the subsequent scene, he was not only shocked, but also a little frightened, because there were too many high-ranking captains who appeared today. First, a cold beauty with short bangs and braids appeared. It was Sui Feng, the captain of the 2nd squad, the head of the criminal army, and the chief commander of the secret maneuver. Then came Komamura Sajin, the burly captain of the 7th squad wearing a mask, and Chojiro Sasaki, the deputy captain of the 1st squad. TCH, you're all here. Zaraki Kenpachi said casually, carrying Zanpakudo on his shoulders, as if he didn't care about their arrival. Iyasagawa Yumachika, it's up to you to explain the cause of this incident. Seeming to know who Zaraki Kenpachi is, the head of the team, Yamamoto Uenyazai, asked directly by name. Yes, Chief Commander. Facing the highest power level of the Soul Society, Yasugawa Yumachika also put away his usual cynical attitude. From the beginning of recruiting Lin Sheng as a team member, he basically explained the situation of the competition afterwards. Of course, he wouldn't be so stupid as to specifically point out Zaraki Kenpachi's fault, and directly vaguely mention it in this regard. But Yamamoto Genryuzai and the team captains are aware of Zaraki Kenpachi's virtues, and they are close to the truth after a little thought. In other words, the more powerful Reiatsu just now is emitted by the fresh graduate student on Madarame Makaku's back. Kyoraku Shunsui reconfirmed. Yes, Dongfang Yunsheng was about to be cut by the captain at that time, and suddenly burst out with this force. Yasugawa Yumachika said cautiously, and couldn't help but glance at Zaraki Kenpachi during the process. But Zaraki Kenpachi didn't seem to be worried at all, and he was still doing what he should do. Dongfang Yunsheng, the cold beauty, Sui Feng, the captain of the second team, repeated the name. Does Captain Sui Feng know this student? Captain Komamura Sajin of Division 7 asked in a deep voice. This person saved a junior in my family during the last soul burial trial. Sui Feng first looked at Lin Sheng, who was lying unconscious on Madarame Makaku's back, and then Kaido. So that's what happened. I heard that even Captain Aizen and Captain Ichimaru Jin went to the rescue. Kyoraku Shunsui said, lifting the brim of his hat. This incident had a great impact at the time, so many captain-level figures knew about it. Send him to Division 4 for treatment first, and hold him temporarily after waking up, and discuss it after we find out his identity. Commander Yamamoto Motoyanagi ordered indifferently. Imprisoned. Commander-in-Chief, Madarame Makaku seemed to want to argue, but was stopped by Yasugawa Yumachika and shook his head at him. Seeing Yasugawa Yumachika's dissuasion, Madarame Makaku seemed to have thought a lot, and could only reply helplessly, yes. Then, together with Yasugawa Yumachika, they carried Lin Sheng on their backs and ran towards the position of the fourth team. Looking at the figures of the few people going away, Kyoraku Shunsui said with emotion, if this young man is okay, he is probably the most potential talent in the history of Soul Society. Old man Yamamoto, why do you want to imprison my subordinates? I mentioned the competition. What does it have to do with him? Zaraki Kenpachi said, dissatisfied. Captain Zaraki, His Majesty Genryujai did this to protect that young man. After all, if such a talent is left unprotected, it may be used by someone with a heart. Komamura Sajin defended the captain. If there is any problem, we will deal with it directly, and if there is no problem, we will cultivate it. Chief Captain Yamamoto Motoryuzai said solemnly. Haha, that's definitely no problem, I'll teach him how to slash people. Zaraki Kenpachi said with a sudden laugh. This made Yamamoto Genryuzai's eyebrows tremble a little. He seemed to think that if Lin Sheng is really a good candidate, it would be a bit too much to hand it over to Zaraki Kenpachi. As for which team this person studies in, let's discuss later. After the Captain Yamamoto Uenyuzai said this, his figure blurred for a while, and when he reappeared, he had already appeared in the inner court of Jinglington. Old man Yamamoto, are you trying to rob someone? Zaraki Kenpachi shouted into the sky, but he didn't know if he could hear it. My little Naneo should be in a hurry, excuse me. Kyoraku Shunsui said with a smile while supporting the brim of his hat, and then disappeared. Sui Feng, captain of the second team, didn't even look at Zaraki Kenpachi, and left after a few blinks. Captain Zaraki, then I'm leaving too. Komamura Sajin said solemnly, and then he also left towards the 7th Division station. In a secluded place with beautiful scenery, several white buildings are scattered around. These buildings are hung with signs such as General Service Office or Comprehensive Ambulance Station. They are the base of the 4th Division and the location of the hospital. After climbing over a few scattered pine trees, Madarame Makaku and Yasugawa Yumachika came here with Lin Sheng on their backs. Madara's 3rd seat. Ace Chuan's 5th seat. And what's wrong with this student? A pleasant voice came, which attracted the attention of Yijiao and others. I saw a beautiful woman with short light purple hair, a few thin braids, and a slender figure, who opened the white curtain and came out. Vice Captain Yongyan. After seeing who it was, Madarame Makaku and the two were overjoyed. They were worried just now, fearing that they could not find a good doctor to treat Lin Sheng. This time, They met Katetsu Azane, the vice captain of the 4th Division, up. So that's the case. After listening to Madarame Makaku's simple explanation, Katetsu Azane was also unambiguous, directly asked them to put Lin Sheng on the hospital bed, and began to check. Is this kid so cold? Madarame Makaku asked from the side. Hearing their inquiries, Katetsu Azane first put away the inspection equipment in a leisurely manner, and then replied, "It's nothing serious, it's just that Reiatsu is exhausted. After a few days of recuperation, Reiatsu will recover on its own and everything will be fine. Look, I've said it was a loss of strength." Iyasagawa Yumichika spread his hands and said, saying that his previous judgment was correct. "I still don't know what will happen to Yun Sheng after he wakes up." Madarame Makaku said with some annoyance, if the way the captain gave him was too extreme, he would be equivalent to indirectly harming Lin Sheng. No problem, the captain is only concerned about the safety of the Soul Society, and after investigation, he will release Yun Sheng. Iyasagawa Yumichika said with certainty. At this moment, Katetsu Azane, who was beside the bed, reminded, "You too, the patient is awake." "Hey, Yun Sheng, how are you feeling?" Madarame Makaku asked casually as usual, but in fact he was relieved. "I feel okay, but I feel a little weak," Lin Sheng said with a pale face. He didn't expect this kind of sudden incident either. Luckily it broke out during the battle. If he broke out Reiatsu for no reason, it would be more difficult to explain. But this incident also made him understand that he still doesn't know much about the soul, and there are still many mysteries waiting for him to explore. After leaving here, be sure to study the issue of Reiatsu transmission and Reiatsu reversal, Lin Sheng secretly said. The spirit body is currently stable, and Reiatsu is gradually recovering. Katetsu Azane said after checking Lin Sheng's body again. It's just that her expression was a little strange, because the student's self-recovery speed was a bit fast, as if the surrounding spirits were rushing into his body. It's just that she didn't say anything about such an abnormal situation, but decided to go back and check the information to determine what caused it. Hearing that there were people beside him, Lin Sheng looked sideways and immediately understood where he was. This is the Vice Captain Yongyan, she is the one who helped you heal. Madarame Makaku raised Lin Sheng from the corner of his eyes, looking like you're a good-for-nothing kid. Thank you, Vice Captain Yongyan. Lin Sheng thanked the beauty. At this time, his face was not so pale, and he could even move his body. Then I won't bother you anymore, let's talk. Katetsu Azane said with a smile, and then opened the white curtain and went out. After Katetsu Azane went out, Madarame Makaku's face also fell silent, and then he explained the command of the captain to Lin Sheng. Want to imprison me temporarily? Lin Sheng was surprised. He expected that the matter would be very troublesome to deal with, but he didn't expect it to reach the point of being imprisoned for review. It is said to be in custody, but it is actually temporary, and you will not be imprisoned in the prison of the 9th Squad, but just find someone to look after you in the 7th Squad. Iyasagawa Yumichika immediately explained, he was afraid that Lin Sheng would hence the misunderstanding. I see. Lin Sheng heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he didn't go to the 9th Squad, he wouldn't be considered a heinous criminal. The 7th Squad was the inner court guard, usually assisting and protecting the 1st Squad, and at most he could be considered a guard there. A team stationed. Chief Captain Yamamoto Genryuzai is checking a document, which was personally sent by the 2nd Team Captain Sui Feng. Dongfang Yunsheng, a person who lives in the empty seat of the world, was buried in the Soul Society by Yoshiyuki Kuretani after his death. I met Madarame Makaku and others in the mission in the Soul Society 79 area, and then they were recommended by the two to join the Mao Academy of Spiritual Art. During this period, I showed an extremely amazing talent. Because Shikai was released in the last soul burial trial, and because he has completed all his studies within 1 year, he is specially approved to graduate early. When the Captain Yamamoto Genryuzai watched the data, the captain of the 2nd Squad Sui Feng also explained. From this point of view, there is nothing wrong with this person, but his talent is a bit amazing. Yamamoto Motoryuzai put down the documents in his hand. His old and majestic face could not see any emotional changes. Xing Jun's investigation and a piece of information will naturally not reassure him completely. After all, many things can be faked, especially after Hiroko Shinji and others had an accident. He knew that there were people hidden behind the scenes in Soul Society. At this moment, Chojiro Sasaki, the deputy captain of the first team, came in and handed Yamamoto Motoryuza a piece of information again. This is the report submitted by Katetsu Izane, the vice captain of the 4th Division. It is said that the problem was discovered during the treatment of Dongfang Yunsheng. Please take a look at it, sir. Sui Feng, who was in the hall, suddenly raised her head. She was willing to travel for Dongfang Yunsheng because she saved her only junior, but if she found out that there was something wrong with him, she would take the initiative to lead this task. So that's it. This way, we can know why his talent is so outstanding. Yamamoto Uenyuzai said clearly after reading the report, and then handed the information in his hand to Sui Feng beside him. This is. Sui Feng took the document with some doubts. I saw that it said, sincerely, Katetsu Izane, the vice captain of the 4th team. When treating a student named Dongfang Yunsheng, he found that his Reiatsu recovered on his own as dozens of times that of ordinary people. After checking the information from ancient times to the present, I found that this person is probably a rare Yunling physique in the Soul Society. After discovering this matter, Yang Yin dared not hide anything. I hereby report this matter to the head of the general, and suggest that it be emphasized. Nourish. After reading this document, the killing intent in Sui Feng's heart quickly faded away, and she understood that she didn't need to worry about how to deal with Dongfang Yunsheng anymore. 7th Division Resident, the captain's room. Captain Komamura, you don't need to look at me in person, do you? Lin Sheng said helplessly as he sat aside. This is an order personally issued by Your Excellency Genryuzai, so I will never let you leave my sight for half a step. Komamura Sajin said solemnly. During the process he did not forget to review everything in the team. Yes, you have the final say on this matter. Lin Sheng said boringly while lying on the table. It only took him half a day in the 4th team to basically recover, and then he was taken away from the 4th team by the captain of the 7th team, Komamura Sajin. After arriving in the 7th division, the big dog, no, it should be Captain Komamura, and he didn't make things difficult for him, but he just didn't let him out of his sight. At this moment, an ordinary Shinigami rushed in, knelt on one knee and said, "Report, the captain of the 2nd team and the vice captain of the 1st team are coming together. It seems that Your Excellency Genryujai has already decided what to do with you." Komamura Sajin stood up and said to Lin Sheng. But Lin Sheng is not panic at all, he believes that he handled it very cleanly, and it is impossible to be found out that there is something abnormal. Besides, who would have thought that someone in the world could become Shu and Shinigami at the same time? I am afraid that even Aizen would not dare to think so. After all, this is an unprecedented thing. Even using Hogyoku can only make the void Shinigami or Shinigami hollow, but it has never been heard of individuals who want to be divided into 2 different species. Someone has this ability. That is, Lin Sheng himself, probably because of time travel, caused the abnormality of the soul and spirit body. To a certain extent, Lin Sheng does not belong to the void or Shinigami, his soul is a kind of alien from the beginning, so there are no such things as virtual wholes. Just as Lin Sheng was thinking, a cold beauty with a ringed snake braid and an ordinary uncle walked in. It was Sui Feng, the captain of the 2nd team, and Chojiro Sasaki, the vice captain of the 1st team. Captain Komamura, we are here to announce the order to deal with Dongfang Yunsheng. Chojiro Sasaki explained to Komamura Sajin as soon as he entered. You two, please go your own way. Komamura Sajin raised his hand as a gesture. After Chojiro Sasaki was slightly upset with Komamura Sajin, he walked up to Lin Sheng and announced, Dongfang Yunsheng, in view of your outstanding talent, the captain has decided to let you re-elect a new team, and the captain will personally guide you. Re-election for the 5th team. Can't you join the 11th team? Lin Sheng frowned and asked, could it be that Aizen wants to go to the 5th team by himself? You have also seen the situation of Captain Zaraki, I'm afraid I don't have time to guide you in practice. Chojiro Sasaki said tactfully. Then I don't know which teams I can join now. Lin Sheng asked tentatively. At present, the one who is willing to accept you and at the same time is willing to guide you as the captain is Captain Aizen of the 5th division. As soon as he heard that Aizen was the first one at the beginning, Lin Sheng's face became a little unnatural. He guessed right, Aizen might have been waiting for him here. As if seeing Lin Sheng's dazed expression, Chojiro Sasaki called out, Dongfang Yunsheng. Dongfang Yunsheng. Ah, I'm sorry, it seems that my body has not fully recovered, so my head was a little dizzy just now. Lin Sheng quickly adjusted to deal with it. Chojiro Sasaki nodded without expressing much, and announced again, in addition to Captain Aizen of the 5th Division, Captain Shiba of the 10th Division and Captain Sui Feng of the 2nd Division are willing to personally guide you. Second Squad. Lin Sheng looked at the cold beauty who hadn't spoken since she came in, and asked in surprise. Yes, the person who came with me is the captain of the 2nd Division, His Excellency Sui Feng. Chojiro Sasaki introduced while turning sideways. Don't show that expression, I am willing to recruit you into the 2nd team because you saved Ji Yuchuan. Sui Feng said coldly. Lin Sheng nodded. After Sui Feng came here, he guessed that it must have something to do with Feng Guchuan. But Shiba of the 10th team is single-minded. To be honest, he is also very interested. After all, he is the father of the protagonist in the original work. But in terms of strength improvement, this uncle does not seem to be a reliable person. Captain Sui Feng has great accomplishments in Shunpo and White Hits. To be honest, I was surprised that he was willing to recruit you to join the 2nd team. Chojiro Sasaki persuaded from the side. Of course, it doesn't matter which team Lin Sheng joins, but since the captain of the 2nd team is present in person, it's really unreasonable for him not to recommend it. I am willing to join the 2nd team, and I will trouble Captain Sui Feng in the future. Lin Sheng said the first sentence to Chojiro Sasaki, and the latter sentence directly to Sui Feng. Now that you've made a decision, go to the 2nd Division with Captain Sui Feng to go through the registration procedures. I'm going back to report the result to the Chief Commander. Chojiro Sasaki was slightly embarrassed at Sui Feng, then left here. Dongfang Yunsheng, come with me, we will go to the base of the 2nd team next, but don't lose track of us. Sui Feng turned and walked out, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Are we about to start the entrance ceremony of the 2nd team? I'm still a patient, Captain Sui Feng. Lin Sheng heard that Sui Feng seemed to be trying to test him, so he quickly followed and reminded Road. This made Sui Feng, who was leaving, pause. She looked back at Lin Sheng, who was full of reiatsu, and sneered, I can't see the slightest sign of a patient in you, and about your restoration of reiatsu, it has been reported to the captain. Lin Sheng was taken aback for a moment, then he rubbed the back of his head and smiled modestly. Captain Sui Feng is really amazing, he can tell at a glance that I have fully recovered. Although the words were praising Sui Feng, they didn't mention Reiatsu's recovery at all. However, Sui Feng didn't intend to ask further questions. According to the previous reports, it has been confirmed that Dongfang Yunsheng has a Yunling physique. Besides, everyone has their own secrets. If the Soul Society is not threatened, there is no need to break the casserole and ask the bottom line. Since there is no problem, let's go, but you have to keep up. Sui Feng said with a sneer, and his figure gradually blurred on the spot. Do you want to test my Shunpo as soon as you come up? Lin Sheng looked at Sui Feng who had already appeared at the next location waiting for him and thought. Dongfang Yunsheng, don't tell me you don't know how to Shunpo. The petite figure of Sui Feng said proudly standing on the eaves of the 7th Division. Brush. As if responding to Sui Feng's questioning, Lin Sheng's figure came to her side in an instant. Smelling the fragrance from Sui Feng's body, Lin Sheng said with a smile, then asked Captain Sui Feng for guidance. Sui Feng frowned, as if he was not used to standing so close to a man. But she didn't show it, she just said indifferently, it started. After finishing speaking, Sui Feng's figure jumped up quickly, moving forward as if teleporting. It's so fast, but I should be able to keep up. Lin Sheng said, and then he stepped forward with the sole of his foot lightly, and the figure also left the place. Brush, brush. Two white figures flashed and flickered in Jinglingting, passing a building group in a very short time. Just as they passed these buildings, in one of the aristocratic mansions with the two big characters of Kuchiki, the handsome man wearing star pliers on his head and a silver and white floral gauze scarf around his neck has been watching their figures. This scene seems familiar, murmured the handsome man, Byakuya Kuchiki, who seemed to recall the scene when Flash Goddess Yoruichi directed him to Shunpo. The other captains in the jingling court stopped paying attention after they realized that Sui Feng, the captain of the 2nd team, was pointing out the new players. After all, if this kind of thing happened in the early years, the second team would do it every day. After circling half a circle around Jinglingting's outer court, Sui Feng glanced sideways at the rear, and found that Lin Sheng's figure was actually closely following behind her. Can you keep up? Looks like you have to show some real skills. After finishing speaking, Sui Feng's figure couldn't help speeding up again, jumping several times in a row like lightning, and completely distanced himself from Lin Sheng behind him. Okay. Lin Sheng suddenly felt that the beautiful figure in front of him was getting farther and farther away from him, and every time he thought he was going to catch up, what he met was only the afterimage of Sui Feng left in place. Is this Kong Chan? A more advanced Shunpo developed by Flash Goddess Shihuan Yoruichi. Lin Sheng said with a serious face. If he didn't hurry up, he might not even see Sui Feng's shadow. Although he doesn't know the consequences of not being able to keep up, it is not what he wants to be underestimated when he first joins the team. Thinking of this, Lin Sheng recalled the various principles of Shunpo and Dangjuan. Shunpo is a way of moving at high speed, while Dangjuan is a way of using space to move. If the two are combined, I don't know if it can increase his current speed. Lin Sheng, who was trying to combine the two, suddenly found an electric arc jumping on his body, and then realized that his speed had actually increased. Although the improvement is not much, it's effective. Lin Sheng said happily, and then immediately put away the joy on his face, began to concentrate on launching this technique, and quickly chased in the direction Sui Feng left. At this time, the second team is stationed. A rakeage flashed past, and a petite figure appeared here. It was Sui Feng. Sui Feng glanced sideways at the back first, and then said indifferently, "It seems that Omaeda has to go find that kid." Suddenly, a flash of lightning flashed by, and Lin Sheng, who had just been judged lost by Sui Feng, chased after him. Hoo! Lin Sheng, who had just stopped, squatted on the ground and gasped violently. He barely knew the direction by relying on the afterimages left by Sui Feng, but even so, he accelerated desperately to get here. How is it possible? Sui Feng looked at Lin Sheng, who was panting violently on the ground, and said in disbelief. "Captain Sui Feng, your speed is really fast, I almost couldn't keep up." Lin Sheng sat directly on the ground, turned and smiled at Sui Feng. But Sui Feng's expression seemed to be a bit wrong. Her complexion changed from sunny to cloudy, and she suddenly scolded, "Is it that woman? Is it the empty cicada that woman taught you? That woman, Kong Chan." Lin Sheng was a little puzzled by Monk Jong-er. But seeing how emotional Sui Feng is, that woman wouldn't be referring to Shihuan Yoruichi, right? As for the empty cicada, I don't know how to do it myself. Wait, could it be that the empty cicada was developed by Shihuan Yoruichi with the help of the principle of ringing and spinning? Thinking of this, Lin Sheng seemed to have the feeling of discovering the secrets of Shihuan Yoruichi and Urahara Kazuki. But soon he didn't have time to think about it anymore, because the furious Sui Feng was like a little lioness. She grabbed Lin Sheng's collar directly, and there was a look of anger or expectation in her eyes. "Captain Sui Feng, have you misunderstood me? I have never studied with anyone other than the teachers at the Junyang Spiritual Art Academy, and I don't know what the empty cicada is in your mouth." Lin Sheng, comforted looking at the furious Sui Feng, said. Hearing what Lin Sheng said, Sui Feng, who was extremely emotionally unstable, seemed to think that in Lin Sheng's situation, it was absolutely impossible to get in touch with that woman. However, although her emotions subsided a bit, she still questioned Lin Sheng, "Where did you learn that Kongchen? How do you explain this? Empty cicada. Is it the moving footwork just now? It was after I realized that I couldn't catch up with you, Captain Sui Feng. I added some small skills on a whim, but it was only because the idea was immature that I consumed so much Reiatsu." Lin Sheng explained helplessly. His Reiatsu and physical strength were indeed consumed a lot in the chase just now. Seeing Reiatsu being severely consumed and Lin Sheng panting, Sui Feng let go of his hands, and his emotions seemed to have calmed down completely, and then said very rarely, "Sorry, I thought you were related to that woman, so I just would be so angry." Relieved, Lin Sheng stood up and asked, "I don't know who the woman Captain Sui Feng is talking about. There is such a big reaction." Sui Feng first looked at Lin Sheng, and seemed to think that it was okay to tell him. "That's an enemy of mine named Shihuan Yoruichi." "Shihuan Yoruichi? Lin Sheng pretended to be surprised. That's right, it is Shihuan Yoruichi, the former head of the Shihuan family among the 4 great nobles, and also the former captain of the second team. Sui Feng seemed to be a little emotional when he said this. The 4 great nobles are the oldest families in the Soul Society. They are the Kuchiki family, the Shihuan family, the Shiba family and the Tsunayashiro family. In fact, they originally belonged to the 5 great noble households, but there is one ancient family that seems to be involved in hell and has never appeared in the world, so it is unknown. So that's the case, then I must be careful about this woman in the future. Lin Sheng didn't ask how they got into an enmity, but it is estimated that there is a high probability that it is the hatred of abandonment. And Sui Feng didn't seem to want to mention this aspect. She just told Lin Sheng that she must be very careful when seeing this woman in the future. But I didn't expect that you could step into the threshold of the empty cicada by yourself. It seems that your talent is really amazing. After adjusting his emotions, Sui Feng also had to praise Lin Sheng. It's all thanks to Captain Sui Feng. If you hadn't shown me this technique, I'm afraid I wouldn't have thought of it. Lin Sheng said modestly, rubbing the back of his head. Looking at Lin Sheng's appearance, Sui Feng seemed to think of the scene where when he faced that woman again in the future, he could defeat her with the person he taught. Thinking of that scene, Sui Feng's attitude towards Lin Sheng has also improved a lot. In fact, after the affectionate expression just now, the relationship between the two has improved a lot. Of course, the improvement of the relationship here is just a kind of relationship between master and apprentice. Spring goes by and autumn comes, time flies. Lin Sheng has spent a year here after joining the second team. During this period, Sui Feng not only taught Lin Sheng to learn Kongchen, but also taught him the combined technique of Kido and white hits, instant coaxing. It's just that this move is powerful and difficult to control, so Sui Feng told him not to use this move unless necessary. In addition, Lin Sheng also tested the problem of Reiatsu transmission. He found that after he closed Reiatsu in Soul Society, his Reiatsu in Haweiko Mundo would also increase. But it is a pity that the increased Reiatsu is not as much as expected, which may be related to his Shinigami strength. But after Haweiko Mundo banned Reiatsu, as a Shinigami, he couldn't bear this Reiatsu. Just like last time, he would explode Reiatsu infinitely, and then collapsed into a coma. At this moment, Lin Sheng, who is in the Soul Society, is heading to the meeting room of the second team, and it is said that there is an order from Central 46. Central 46 is composed of 1 representative from each of the 40 nobles in the Soul Society and 6 judges. It is the highest judicial organ of the Soul Society. Its organizational nature is more like a collective council composed of nobles and elders, in a sense, sharing the rights of the captain, and at the same time stabilizing the status of the nobles. East 4 seats. East 4 seats. Lin Sheng, who was walking on the road, was greeted non-stop by members of the 2nd Division who were on patrol, and he also nodded with a smile. After joining the second team, he was directly appointed by Captain Sui Feng as the 4th officer, and shortly thereafter, he also served as the commander of the 4th unit of the Secret Mobile Team. The Secret Mobile Team, mainly dressed in ninja outfits, usually does not reveal their body shape, and only appears at critical moments. Under the jurisdiction of the 1st Combat Unit, the Criminal Army, it is mainly an execution force based on execution and assassination. It is good at white hits. The drawing of the sword by the head of the army means the beginning of the execution in martial arts. It is currently under the direct control of the Captain Sui Feng. The 2nd detachment is the Reconnaissance Police Team, which mainly patrols in Jingalingting and monitors the movements of Shinigami. The current commander is Omaeda Marekio. The 3rd detachment is the Supervisory Supervision Team, whose main task is to guard the Supervisory Tower, that is, the Worm's Nest, where Shinigami who threaten the Soul Society are specially imprisoned. The current commander is Kazuki Chishima, the 3rd Chief Officer. The 4th Division is the Combat Reserve Team, which mainly assists the Qing Army in combat and assassination. When the Qing Army is short of personnel, the Reserve Team will be added to the Qing Army. The current commander is the 4th Dongfang Yunsheng. The 5th Detachment is a speed-type Liting Team, which can quickly convey orders to the ordering troops of each unit, which is faster and more accurate than the Hell Butterflies method of sending orders, and the orders conveyed are all first-level strict orders. The current commander is the 5th Bird Eagle. The above is the troop structure of the second team. Due to the problem of troop attributes, usually only the patrolling team members and the team members who are taking turns can be seen in the team. At this time, Lin Sheng, who had just stepped into the meeting room of the 2nd Division, heard a slightly sarcastic voice. "Hey, isn't this our Eastern 4th seat? You came so early." Hearing this, Lin Sheng turned his head to look, and saw a man with a gloomy face looking at him unhappily sitting on the 6th seat from the bottom in the conference room. This person's name is Hezhong Shani. He is the 6th seat of the second team and a strong contender for the originally vacant 4th seat. After Lin Sheng airborne to the 4th seat, he has never shown a good face. "So it's Hezhong's 6 seats, do you have any advice?" Lin Sheng asked flatly. After coming to the second team, he has been studying with Sui Feng, and basically rarely appears in the tasks sent by the second team. So most people have the impression that he has no strength and no credit, but he is airborne to a high position. "Don't you know that today is an important meeting? Vice Captain Omaeda and the 3rd seat of Qiandao have been waiting for a long time, how dare you come so late?" He Gangshan scolded, as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. "Hasn't the captain come yet? Why did I come late? Who else gave you the guts to speak to me like this as the 6th seat?" Lin Sheng asked sharply. Hezhong Shani seemed to be a little discouraged by what Lin Sheng said, but after he glanced at the 3rd chief, Kazuki Qiandao, he seemed to regain his confidence. "Did your 4th seat really come from your strength? Can you see which one of you here is convinced by you? If it wasn't for flattering you, the captain." "That's enough." A loud roar suddenly rang out, interrupting Hezhong Shani's next words, which also attracted the attention of everyone in the audience. The Vice Captain Omaeda Marekio stood up and said very dissatisfied, "If you have any grievances, you can settle them privately, but don't involve the captain. If I find out that anyone dares to bring these crap to the captain, don't blame me." Omaeda Marekio no advance notice. These words made Lin Sheng look at this fat Omaeda Marekio with admiration. It seems that this guy not only cares about the family business, but is also a pioneer in maintaining the captain's reputation. It's the Vice Captain Omaeda. He Gangshan also seemed to realize that he had said something wrong. Kaido immediately nodded and bowed. Omaeda Marekio, although not very strong and not very good looking, but he is very prestigious in the second team, and even won the support of everyone. Part of the reason is that Omaeda Marekio has been the vice captain of the second team since his grandfather's generation. Even Urahara Kazuki was only the 3rd seat when he was in the second team. It is conceivable that his family is in the second team. How solid the foundation of the team is. In addition to the prestige accumulated by these ancestors, Omaeda Marekio himself is also very generous. Not only did he personally fund the renovation of the second team's team building, he also gave gifts every year and festival. Even Lin Sheng, who just joined the team not long ago, has received countless gifts, so facing such a rich vice captain, the members of the second team also support him very much. "Vice captain, please calm down first. Hezhong's 6th seat also has no intention of hurting the captain." Kazuki Chishima, who was sitting in the 3rd seat, persuaded Omaeda with a smile. The officials in other seats also pleaded for Hezhongshan, which made Omaeda Marekio's complexion a lot better, and then he waved his hand and sat down again. This made Hezhongshan heave a sigh of relief. This was really shooting himself in the foot. Before he could deal with that kid, he almost put himself in it. At this time, after persuading Omaeda Marekio, Kazuki Qiandao said to Lin Sheng and Hezhong Shani with the attitude of a peacemaker, "Now the meeting is about to start. If you two have some personal grievances, it is better to wait until after the meeting. How about a match?" After hearing Qiandao Kazuki's words, he Gangshan responded immediately, "Of course it's no problem. If I lose, I will apologize to Dongfang Yunsheng." Lin Sheng first looked at Kazuki Qiandao, the 3rd chief officer, and then at Kazuki Hezhong who couldn't wait, and said with a chuckle, "The trick you two set up is too naive. If you want to test my strength, you can just say, 'Dongfang Yunsheng, do you mean that my majestic 3rd seat will frame you, the 4th seat?'" Qiandao Kazuki said with an unhappy expression. Although everyone understands this kind of thing, he never exposes it on the surface of. "Dongfang Yunsheng, the 3rd seat of Qiandao is also our senior and superior. Just now you just maliciously slandered us just to persuade us. Do you still have order in your eyes? Higangshan immediately condemned Road. Okay, I know what you're thinking, and I don't mind a 1-on-2 against you guys. Lin Sheng said casually, and then walked to his seat and sat down directly. Kazuki Qiandao and Kazuki Hejongshan wanted to say something more, but a petite figure had already appeared at the door of the meeting room, which caused the two of them to hold back the curses they were about to utter, because it was their second team who came. Captain Sui Feng. In front of Sui Feng, they didn't dare to act like they did just now. To be precise, neither they nor the vice-captain Omaeda Marekio in the second division dared to touch Sui Feng in a certain sense. Tiger beard. What happened? Sui Feng asked in a cold voice as he looked at the tense conference room. Actually, it's nothing, it's just that the 4th seat in the east wants to compete with me and the 6th seat in Hejiang. Hearing Captain Su Feng's inquiry, Kazuki Qiandao explained with a smile. Dongfang Yunsheng. Compete with you guys. Sui Feng first glanced at Lin Sheng strangely, then waved his hand and said, what nonsense, what is the comparison between you? Captain, don't worry, it's just an ordinary competition between us, and we won't hurt the 4 seats in the east. Hejiang Shanyi thought that Sui Feng was afraid of Lin Sheng's injury, and immediately expressed his opinion. Captain, other colleagues must also want to see the strength of Dongfang succeed. If you defend it like this, everyone will not be convinced in their hearts even though they are convinced by Dongfang's succeed. Qiandao Kazuki also added on the sidelines. There is more or less the meaning of raising the banner of everyone, but at this time, no one else agrees with him except Hejiang Shanyi. In fact, his purpose is very simple, which is to make Lin Sheng look bad, and then withdraw from the 4th seat under pressure, so that Hejiang Shanyi, who is more obedient to him, has a chance to get the top 5 seats. You must know that in the second team, the status of the top 5 seats is much higher than that of other teams. This is because the top 5 seats in the second team are all qualified to serve as the commander of the secret mobile team. You think I'm protecting Dongfang Yunsheng? It's ridiculous. What I said just now was not for you, but for Dongfang Yunsheng. Sui Feng said with a sneer. As the saying goes, where there are people, there will be struggles. This Qiandao Kazuki was directly arranged by Central 46 to join the second team. Sui Feng knew about this, and Vice-Captain Omaeda Marekio knew about it, but they had no reason to reject this behavior, unless they wanted to rebel against the ruling class of the Seoul Society. Oh, after hearing what you said, Captain, we are more interested in the strength of the 4th seat in the east. Kazuki Chishima's smile became brighter, and he thought it was because Sui Feng couldn't come to the stage that he said that. Since you are determined to do so, Dongfang Yunsheng, you can compete with the 6 seats in Hejiang and the 3 seats in Qiandao. Sui Feng said with a sneer. Captain, don't you still have an order from Central 46? Why don't you just forget about it? Omaeda Marekio immediately stood up and persuaded. He was afraid that if the results of the competition came out, the captain would lose face. After all, Dongfang Yunsheng was Sui Feng's apprentice, so it would be a shame to lose. It's okay, I believe this trial won't last long, Sui Feng said to Lin Sheng, who had been sitting there silently. Coincidentally, Lin Sheng also looked back at her, and did not forget to show her a smile. Outside the meeting room of the second team, in an open space, Lin Sheng stretched his waist, and without drawing his sword, he casually said to Hejiang Shanyi, who was standing opposite him, Hejiang 6 seats, hurry up, don't waste everyone's time. As soon as Higangshan clenched the Zanpakudo in his hand, he said with a livid face, Dongfang Yunsheng, don't blame me for not warning you in advance for your arrogant behavior. Don't worry, Zanpakudo is not needed to deal with someone like you. Lin Sheng waved at Hejiang Mountain, as if I would give you a chance. Arrogant boy, let me teach you a lesson. Higangshan shouted angrily, and then directly attacked with a knife. It's too slow. Lin Sheng easily avoided the knife with a flick, and then kicked Hejiang Shanyi's abdomen with a knee. Puff. Hejiangshan felt a sharp pain in his stomach, and then he seemed to spit out bitter water. Seeing Hejiang Shanyi holding his belly like a boiled prawn, Lin Sheng pushed him down at Chidao Kazuki's feet. This made Qiandao Kazuki very embarrassed. He never expected that Hejiang Shanyi would be defeated by this kid without even using Shikai. Omaeda Marekio, Wuxi Sparrowhawk and others in the onlookers were also surprised. It goes without saying that He Zhongshan can become the 6th seat of the second team, but he was defeated so easily now. I heard that the 3rd seat of Qiandao is Shinigami, who is in charge of guarding the supervision tower. He must be a grandmaster in white hits. I wonder if you would like to give some advice. Lin Sheng said casually, flicking the dust that was not on his body. The supervision tower, also known as the Worm's Nest, is dedicated to imprisoning Shinigami who are a threat to the Soul Society. They are not allowed to carry any weapons when entering. Therefore, as the guard of the supervision tower, they must be able to suppress all personnel in the supervision tower with bare hands. It is said that the last one to come out of the supervisory tower was Kuritsuchi Mayuri, the captain of the 12th Division, who was a monster-like lunatic. However, this also indirectly shows that, as the guard of the supervision tower, Kazuki Qiandao's strength cannot be ignored. Since you know that I am the guard of the supervisory tower, and you still have the guts to fight me, I really don't know whether you are ignorant or courageous. Kazuki Qiandao first glanced coldly at He Zhongshan on the ground, then he said to Lin Sheng. So, the 3 seats of Qiandao are planning to fight. Lin Sheng raised his fist and raised his hand. What? The figure of Kazuki Qiandao rushed out quickly, and arrived in front of Lin Sheng in the blink of an eye. Boom, boom, boom. The impact of fists and feet kept ringing, and the two started a fierce hand-to-hand combat with only fists and feet. Boom. Lin Sheng, who had just avoided Kazuki Qiandao's attack, couldn't help but glance down at the ground, only to see that the ground just hit by Kazuki Qiandao directly burst into countless cracks, which were caused by the bombardment by a powerful force. It seems that this guy really can't be underestimated, Lin Sheng thought with a serious face. What? Dongfang 6e, who was talking boldly just now, can only run away now. Looking at Lin Sheng, who escaped again, Kazuki Qiandao said sarcastically. In the hand-to-hand combat just now, Dongfang Yunsheng had been pressed and beaten by him, which made him full of confidence. It seems that Qiandao Sanchi is very confident in his white hits. Lin Sheng said calmly. Now that you know how powerful you are, do you want to admit defeat? I'm afraid it's too late. Kazuki Chidao sneered. As for the behavior of this kid just now, at least he needs to be paralyzed to relieve the hatred in his heart. Admit defeat. How is that possible? But I'm afraid the 3rd seat of Qiandao will have to rest for a while. After Lin Sheng finished speaking, his back and shoulders began to be entangled with high-concentration compressed Kido, and then an explosion occurred, causing his arms to be completely exposed. The powerful whirlwind centered on Lin Sheng and spread towards the 2nd Division's garrison, and a white light with astonishing power emerged from his body, which was the combined skill of Kido and white hits, instant coaxing. Headed by Omaeda Marekio, a group of 2nd team chiefs couldn't help covering their foreheads and retreating backwards. They felt an extremely dangerous signal from Lin Sheng. What is this? Chidao Kazuki asked in surprise. He had never seen this kind of move, and it looked neither Kido nor white hits at all. Sorry, I'm not yet proficient in controlling this move, but I believe that with the strength of Qiandao's 3 seats, it will definitely be no problem to block these. Lin Sheng adjusted his posture and said. As his posture adjusted, bursts of cyclones quickly wrapped around his arms. Wait, I agree. Kazuki Qiandao, who realized that the situation was not good, seemed to want to admit defeat, but Lin Sheng was already bullying him like a bolt of lightning. Boom! A fist carrying a white cyclone directly hit Chidao Kazuki's abdomen, and then Lin Sheng clenched his fists with both hands and hammered him on the back from top to bottom. Kazuki Qiandao was foaming at the mouth, lying on the ground with his eyes turned white. If not for his body still trembling slightly, everyone would have thought that he was beaten to death just like that. Hurry up and find 2 people to send the 3rd seat of Qiandao to the 4th team. Sui Feng said sharply to the stunned subordinates. Yes. The 2 low-ranking officers immediately reacted. They called the team members who were patrolling nearby, carried Qiandao Kazuki onto the stretcher, and carried He Zhongshan, who was lying aside, on their backs, and sent them to the hospital together. 4th team. Dongfang Yunsheng, you were too harsh in the discussion among the team members, and then write a confession report and submit it to me. Sui Feng reprimanded Lin Sheng with a spoiled look, and then punished Lin Sheng as if he hadn't been punished. Yes, Captain, I will seriously repent, and next time I fight against the 3 seats of Qiandao, I will definitely attack less. Lin Sheng said with a sincere repentance. This made all the chief officers of the second team look at Lin Sheng with strange eyes. Is this guy acting good after taking advantage of it? However, this time Lin Sheng's strength still surprised them. They didn't expect that this Eastern 4th seat, who had just graduated for a year, would have such strength. Even the vice-captain Omaeda Marekio looked unbelievable. He could feel that the strength Lin Sheng showed just now might be even higher than him. Looking back at Captain Sui Feng's protective attitude, this made him have to worry about his position as vice-captain. To know his family's business, he was covered by the identity of this vice-captain. No matter how worried Omaeda Marekio's chubby face was, Central 46's order was still to be announced. First of all, there are some routine instructions to be vigilant and to keep a close watch on Jinglingting and Seoul Society. It was also mentioned later that if any person with abnormal behavior is found, he will be immediately controlled and a simple arrest warrant will be issued. There is very little information on the arrest warrant for Zhang Tong, only the name and photo of the wanted person, and even the ability column only indicates that he is good at disguising and lurking, and nothing else is written, which makes everyone confused. Captain, what crime did this guy commit? It's also unclear what is written here. Omaeda Marekio asked with a puzzled expression. It is said that this person sneaked into the corridor of the Great Spirit Book in the underground meeting hall and stole a piece of information from it, but I don't know exactly what information it is. Sui Feng first answered everyone's questions, and then added, if anyone finds the trace of this person, he can directly arrest him and hand him over to Central 46 for disposal. Shogo Higashino. Lin Sheng looked at the name on the arrest warrant and read. He didn't have the slightest interest in this person, but he had a slight interest in the information that this person stole. Shinyang Academy of Spiritual Art. Lin Sheng came here after attending the meeting of the second team. Today is the graduation ceremony of Rukia Kuchiki and Abarai Renji, and of course he will come to attend. Yun Sheng, you're finally here, I thought you wouldn't show up until the end. Abarai Renji looked at Lin Sheng who was at the meeting just now and shouted. At this time, the ceremony has already been held for more than half. In the past year, Abarai Renji and others have finally caught up with Rukia Kuchiki with their excellent results. On the contrary, Rukia Kuchiki, I don't know if it's because of being bound by an aristocratic family, and she is bound to do things. Although her grades have not declined, compared with Renji and Kira, the progress does not seem to be so obvious. Did Dongfang come too? Hinamori Momo, who had just come down from the high platform, subconsciously looked this way after hearing Abarai Renji's shout. Hi, long time no see. Lin Sheng greeted with a smile. I heard that Dongfang students are now in the 4th seat of the second team. The speed of promotion is really surprising. Hinamori Momo said with a little respect. Now there are 2 people she can admire, one is the Dongfang Yunsheng in front of her, who went to school together and studied together, but in just 2 years, the gap between the two is already huge. The other one is Captain Aizen of the 5th Division. That gentleman is not only powerful, but even makes her yearn for it. It's okay, it's not as exaggerated as Dao Zi said. Lin Sheng smiled modestly while touching the back of his head, and then asked them again, are you sure which team you want to join? Or the 5th team? Well, I think Captain Aizen is an extremely gentle person. After joining the 5th team, it will definitely be better than expected. Hinamori Momo said with a hint of longing in his eyes. Abarai Renji spread his hands and said helplessly, I and Kira can't help it, after all, the other teams didn't invite us. If you guys are willing to go to the 11th team, I can talk to Yijiao. Lin Sheng said. The 11th team, I have no problem, but for Kira, the 5th team is probably more suitable for him. Abarai Renji touched his head and said with some embarrassment. Are you talking bad about me again? Renji. At this moment, Kira Iziru's voice came. He was walking this way with Rukia Kuchiki, who seemed to have just finished their graduation ceremony. It's finally over, it's Yunsheng who just asked us if we want to go to Team 11. Abarai Renji explained what happened just now. Sorry, but I think the 5th team is more suitable for me. Kira Iziru said politely to Lin Sheng. It's okay, I'll just ask casually. Lin Sheng greeted Kira Iziru first, and then asked Rukia Kuchiki, By the way, Rukia has decided which team to go to. Well, I have decided to join the 13th Division at the invitation of Vice Captain Shiba. Rukia Kuchiki, who has onion hair, nodded cutely. Shiba Kyan, Lin Sheng said silently. He did think of this old friend from the past, and counting the time, it must be almost time for Shiba Kyan to cool down. For Shiba Kyan, Lin Sheng has no intention of saving him at all. After all, if he hadn't run fast back then, he would have been killed by Shiba Kyan long ago to claim credit. To be precise, Lin Sheng has an attitude of indifference towards most people in the Soul Society. It would be good if he doesn't help the opponent to kill you, and you still expect me to save you. Although it is not the same as Aizen's ultimate goal, Lin Sheng also does not like this kind of world completely ruled by nobles. After chatting for a while, everyone decided to go home and tidy up, and then went to Jinglingting to report. Student Dongfang, are you planning to go home and have a look? Hinamori Momo looked at Lin Sheng who was walking with him, and asked curiously. No, I'm going to investigate something by the way. Lin Sheng said casually, but didn't mention the content further. In fact, he mainly wanted to meet Hitsugaya Toshiro. As for the investigation of Higashino Shogo, he really just wanted to investigate by the way. Student Dongfang, if you have time later, you can come to my house for a sit-down. Hinamori Momo didn't think much about it, but instead invited him happily. Well, excuse me then. Lin Sheng responded with a nod. This made Hinamori Momo very happy. This is the first time that a classmate or even a Shinigami came to the house as a guest. In particular, this Dongfang classmate came here. This is a genius-like character. When he is introduced to Xiaobai, he will definitely be shocked. Thinking of this, Hinamori Momo seemed to have imagined Xiaobai's expression, and couldn't help but burst out laughing. Rukongai North Street, District 45. This is not a very prosperous area. To be precise, compared with the noisy street market in front, this place is like the countryside. But Lin Sheng felt that this place is more simple. Although there is no noise and bustle of people coming and going, it has another kind of refreshing feeling. Of course, the most important point is that the living environment here is many times stronger than the Area 79 where Lin Sheng lived before. At least the people here have enough water, and they don't have to worry about food, and they won't fight for a little resource. Xiaobai, I'm back. Hinamori Momo shouted into the house as soon as he pushed open the gate of the yard. She seems extremely excited today. After all, it is her dream to be a Shinigami. Now that she has friends with her, she certainly hopes to share it with Xiaobai. But unfortunately, no one in the house seemed to respond to her. What's going on? Xiaobai and Grandma are not at home. After checking the house, Hinamori Momo came out with a disappointed expression on his face. An aunt next door seemed to have noticed the commotion here, and came over and said, "Did Taozi come back?" Xiaobai went to the treatment center with your grandma on his back. You should go and have a look. Your grandma's condition seems to be not very good. Hearing this, Hinamori Momo couldn't stop crying. Grandma is the family who adopted her and Xiaobai. It can be said that she is their closest person. Now hearing the news that grandma is seriously ill, she is of course distraught. Peach, maybe the situation is not as serious as you imagine, you have to cheer up. Lin Sheng comforted Hinamori Momo with his hand on his forehead. Toho classmate. Hinamori Momo looked up tearfully. She looked at Lin Sheng in the sun, and she didn't know if it was her illusion, but she always felt that Dongfang Yunsheng at this time seemed to overlap with Captain Aizen. Let's go, I'll go with you. Lin Sheng comforted Hinamori Momo. Yeah. Hinamori Momo wiped away tears, nodded in response, and then ran out first. The location of the treatment center was not far from them, but the environment here was very crude, and it didn't look like a place where any disease could be treated. Hinamori Momo, who just arrived here, found Xiaobai and Grandma, and couldn't help but ran over. Xiaobai, how is Grandma's condition? Hinamori Momo, who walked into the treatment center, asked the white-haired boy who was kneeling and trembling, his voice getting smaller and smaller. The doctor here said that Grandma's illness may never get better. Said the white-haired boy, Hitsugaya Toshiro, wiping away tears and choking on his sobs. This caused Hinamori Momo's emotions to be very heavy. She looked at her grandmother who was dying on the hospital bed and cried in grief. You two don't need to be so sad, I have a way to save your grandma. Lin Sheng, who followed Hinamori Momo in, couldn't help interrupting them. Knowing the plot of the original book, he certainly knows what is going on. In fact, their grandma is not sick at all. The real reason is Hitsugaya Toshiro's uncontrollable powerful reiatsu. This is equivalent to a radiation source that has been releasing radiation for a long time. If the release is okay for people with resistance like Hinamori Momo and Lin Sheng, it will not have any impact. But if it is released to ordinary people who do not have the ability to resist reiatsu, of course there will be various adverse reactions over time, and even life-threatening in severe cases. Hinamori Momo and Hitsugaya Toshiro, who were sad, heard this, and immediately looked back at Lin Sheng at the door. You are. Hitsugaya Toshiro immediately wiped away his tears, as if he didn't want to show his cowardly side in front of outsiders. Xiaobai, this is Dongfang Yunsheng, a very talented Shinigami. Hinamori Momo immediately introduced. Hearing what Lin Sheng said just now, her eyes seemed to be filled with a glimmer of hope. Shinigami. Hitsugaya Toshiro looked at Lin Sheng with a hint of curiosity. He had heard about Shinigami many times, but this was the first time he had seen a real Shinigami. Okay, get out of the way. Lin Sheng passed the two of them and walked to the side of their grandmother, and then his hands radiated a green light. Is this Kaido? Hinamori Momo asked in surprise. Generally speaking, unless they intend to develop into the fourth team, others have little energy to study Kaido. Of course, some vice captains like Grandmaster Kido may also have this skill. Is this the ability of Shinigami? Hitsugaya Toshiro looked at this scene in shock, as if a new door had been opened for him at this moment. Not long after, as Lin Sheng withdrew the green light in his hand, the corners of the old man's eyes twitched, as if he wanted to wake up. Grandma. Hinamori Momo immediately went to check and found that the old man's breath had stabilized a lot. It's just that as Hitsugaya Toshiro approached, the old man's breathing became short again. I have something to tell you. Lin Sheng stopped Hitsugaya Toshiro from approaching, said to him, and then walked out of the treatment facility. Hitsugaya Toshiro first glanced at the grandma who was calmed down by Hinamori Momo, as if she understood something, and then walked out. Outside the treatment facility. Presumably you also understand what's wrong with your grandma. Lin Sheng said looking at the white and flawless sky in the distance. Is it because of me? Is it because I'm close to grandma that I'm sick? Hitsugaya Toshiro frowned, asking with some uncertainty. Although he felt that this might be the case, he still couldn't accept the reason. Don't be nervous, it's just because you can't control your own strength. Lin Sheng turned his head to look at the white-haired boy who blamed himself, and pointed out to him. Uncontrollable power. Hitsugaya Toshiro looked at his hands, he didn't feel any difference. Become a Shinigami. Only by becoming a Shinigami can you control this power and get close to your grandma again. Lin Sheng said, looking in Jinglingting's direction. Can I become a Shinigami too? Hitsugaya Toshiro also looked in the direction of Seraite, his brows seemed to stretch a little. While the two were talking, the roar of an explosion came from far and near. What's going on? Hinamori Momo hurried out and asked. But Hitsugaya Toshiro also looked at the smoke and dust in the distance with a confused face, as if he didn't know what happened. Only Lin Sheng looked at that direction thoughtfully, as if he had noticed the abnormality there a long time ago. Don't run around here, I'll check it out. After saying that, Lin Sheng's figure gradually disappeared from the spot. Disappeared? Hitsugaya Toshiro asked in surprise. This is one of Shinigami's abilities Shunpo, the skill of moving at high speed. Hinamori Momo explained on the sidelines. Hitsugaya Toshiro frowned again, as if hesitating, he said to Hinamori Momo, Momo, you stay here to protect grandma, I'll help that guy. Hinamori Momo suddenly wondered, thinking that you were Shendu even to death, why are you running to make trouble at this time, and she should say this sentence, right? But by the time she realized it, Hitsugaya Toshiro had already run a long way. Hinamori Momo first looked at the grandma in the treatment center, then at Xiaobai who was running away, stomped and shouted, Xiaobai, you idiot. At this time, on a street a few streets away from the treatment center. A hot and plump woman Shinigami with an orange shawl and a mole on her lip is confronting a man in civilian clothes. Big sister, why are you chasing me? I told you that I didn't intend to attack you, said the man in civilian clothes helplessly. He was Shogo Higashino, who was secretly wanted by Central 46. After stealing that information, he wanted to escape from Soul Society, but unfortunately, all the exits and entrances had already been blocked, so he had no choice but to disguise himself as a civilian traitor and lurk here. Just when he was extremely nervous, this big wave female Shinigami appeared, which caused his spirit to collapse into a threat immediately, but after thinking about it, he didn't realize that he had something to show his feet. Stabilized for the time being. Unexpectedly, this beautiful woman with big waves came directly to him, and even put her hands on her waist. Doesn't this obviously mean to draw a knife? This is terrible, we must act first. Higashino Shogo made a decision in an instant, but it was a pity that the other party hit him, so he wanted to use words to escape. Attacking a Shinigami at will is a felony, and how can an ordinary Rukongai citizen master the ability of a Shinigami? The big wave beauty looked at the Zanpakuto in the man's hand and the house that had just been knocked down by Kido. Her face was very ugly, said. This beautiful woman with big waves is Matsumoto Rangaku, the vice captain of the 10th Division, who came to North 45th area due to some personal affairs. Just when she was about to buy something, the vendor released Kido to attack her insanely. If she hadn't reacted quickly, she might have been hit by the fireball. Although it is still unclear what the situation is, Matsumoto Rangaku has determined that this person is an extremely dangerous person, and such a person must not be easily let go. TCH, it seems that communication is impossible. Higashino Masao clenched Zanpakuto tightly and said rather unwillingly. If there is too much noise here, more Shinigami will definitely be attracted, so I can only hope for a quick victory and escape from here. Thinking of this, Higashino Shogo didn't hesitate anymore. He let go of the Zanpakuto in his hand and chanted. Live up, Shadow. With the release of Shogo Higashino, his Zanpakuto turned into a drop of ink and fell on his shadow, and then reflected a black light, causing his entire body to be dyed a black shadow. Seeing the enemy gradually turning into a black shadow and attacking him at a high speed, Matsumoto Rangaku didn't dare to be careless, and immediately released his Zanpakuto. Whisper, Hineka. As Matsumoto Rangaku pronounced Zanpakuto's name, her sword blade gradually turned into wisps of smoke, which began to spread around at a very high speed. Zanpakuto of the Qingfeng type. Chengo Higashino, who turned into a black shadow, looked at the surrounding smoke with a solemn expression, and the Zanpakuto of the Qingfeng type just restrained his ability. Here, with the help of the surrounding sand, Matsumoto Rangaku determined the enemy's position in an instant, and then swung the handle without hesitation. Laugh. It seemed to be the sound of a wound being cut open. It was only the initial battle, and Higashino Shogo was already at a disadvantage. This is Hineka's ability. As long as it is touched by sand grains, Matsumoto Rangaku can immediately sense it, and then swing the handle to make the same cutting action. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.